Pennsylvania. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything possible! What's going on, guys, and welcome to another edition of Kicking with Kruse. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, as well alongside James Gonzalez, my co-host, as well as hopefully Isaiah Leon will be coming on later on during the program. Guys, we got a massive show this week, specifically, of course, a lot of stuff this week in terms of the NFL tampering free agency period. We'll talk about that more tonight in the program. We'll also talk about some baseball stuff, specifically latest on the Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell stuff, as well as some other stuff in the baseball front. And then if we can get to it a little bit at the end of basketball, specifically stuff as well. But before we get started, and I bring myself over to James too as well, really quickly, guys, to make sure to follow us on our socials right here on the ticker down below. Make sure to follow us on the IM6 and MI6 Sports Network on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also feel free to follow my Twitter at BenCruz144. I post a lot of stuff specifically sports related. So make sure to give us a like, comment, subscribe. If you guys love this stuff, make sure to send it out to wherever you guys might be. But before we get started specifically and start the show, I'd like to give overall, appreciation over to my co-host, as always, James Gonzalez. James, hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you're having a good weekend. And how are you doing?
I'm good. I was just out, get some exercise in today. So I felt good. Play some sports, whatever. I'm just amazed what this off season is already bringing. It's already bringing some heat, and I know there's going to be more coming on, as tomorrow is the NFL free agency tampering period, and then it'll get going with the signings. And I just love this time of year.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself this morning when I got up, I'm just like, well, October is obviously a great sports month, right? And, you got baseball, playoffs and World Series and stuff like that. You got hockey kind of starting, basketball starting. But March is just kind of like, this is like the peak week. It might be the biggest peak week of sport because you got conference tourney coming up in basketball, March Madness, obviously next week. Got St. Patrick's Day coming up, which is obviously a massive fun event for a lot of people. You got baseball, obviously, still, some top guys still unsigned, which is absolutely crazy. But you obviously have opening day in a couple weeks. You obviously have peak part of basketball season, peak part of hockey season before playoffs. So it's obviously great. And then obviously you top off with NFL offseason. You got a lot of signings already, which we'll talk about tonight. And obviously kind of what we expect specifically for the rest of this week. And obviously our co-host Isaiah Leon, we do plan to, I believe, have a free agency show this week. So make sure to, tune in for that specifically. But without further ado now, James, let's get this show on the roll. And the first thing we'll obviously discuss specifically is football, because that's obviously kind of the biggest thing to look forward to for this week, kind of outside of March Madness. So, James, obviously, let's go into a couple of the big signs that have kind of transpired already. Obviously, two big ones today, one yesterday specifically, and then obviously we've gotten some big-time cuts. And obviously, if we kind of see more throughout tonight's program, which we might, who knows specifically, we'll make sure to give that overall news to you guys. But obviously the news that we have obviously right now is a lot specifically, so I'll try to get to that pretty much as what we can. So without further ado, we could at least kind of start specifically with my Patriots, because my Patriots, James, have been fairly active, and we're not even at the start of tampering. Obviously, they have re-signed wide receiver Kendrick Bourne tonight on a 3-year deal. I thought it was a really good deal for them, 19.5 million AAV, which is really good, really solid. And it also helps them too, specifically go out and try to get a number one receiver, which we've been pretty much kind of hoping for a long period of time. Obviously, another big time move this morning, Mac Jones. Mac Jones, obviously, very indifferent about the guy. Obviously, wish him well specifically, but I knew for a fact he needed a fresh start. Obviously, he is now going to Jacksonville Jaguars for a 6th-round pick. Obviously, I'm kind of shocked that we got some type of value out of him because kind of with the way that things ended, it didn't seem likely. It seemed more if he was going to get cut and picked up potentially from somewhere. But the fact we got something out of him is obviously pretty encouraging. And he also had 4 teams interested in Mac Jones, which is crazy to think also as well too. So at least we got something out of that. And then we re-signed Hunter Henry to a 3-year, I think 3 or 4 year deal a couple days ago too. So now we essentially have 2 of our main guys on our offense back, specific no matter who our quarterback's going to be. And obviously hope this is kind of the start of a busy week for us as we're kind of looking at kind of the offseason of 3 to 4 years ago when we got Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Matt Judon, and Kendrick Bourne, I believe, in that same offseason. So we're going to go crazy and big. But obviously, James, I'll turn it to you really quickly in terms of some of the moves that my Patriots made, obviously, and then we'll kind of get to some of the other stuff that was around the league. And obviously, we'll do our team reports too. So obviously, I might refer to kind of the stuff I already talked about. But what was your overall kind of reaction to some of the moves that the Patriots made so far?
Man, I was shocked this morning when I heard about Mac Jones getting traded to the Jaguars. And then I found out, oh, he's from there. Well, who cares? But maybe that's the only reason why. They know he doesn't really have much of a career left. Let's just be honest with everyone. If he can't make it there, just going to bounce around and be a 2nd string, 3rd string for a while, and then he'll end up just, bouncing out of the league. So I thought he was going to go at, maybe somewhere, I don't know, maybe a little better where he would have a chance to start, but maybe he's not. Everyone knows that he can't. So maybe that's why he was not traded to somewhere where he can thrive. Though he'll have a good chance of Trevor Lawrence, and we've seen him kind of, take hits and get hurt. So maybe because of injury, we'll see Mac Jones sometime next year. I want to see him in the preseason, how he is. I want to see if he's learned anything different, if he's playing a little better, throwing better since he's home. I would love to see that. So I'm going to watch out for him there. You mentioned Kendrick Bourne being signed back to the Patriots for 3 years for $33 million. That's a really solid deal for the team and him.
33 mil, but actually dropped down to 19.5 AAV from one of the Patriots reporters. So that's more of a steal than anything.
Hell yeah. Okay. Wow. I just read 33 right now, so I'm like, oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw that too at first. I said 33 mil. I'm like, it's a little steep, but I'm just like, then I saw the Andrew Callahan, shout out to you, Callahan, one of my favorite guys on the beat on Twitter, and he said 19.5 mil. So he's really tied into the team. So I'm going to trust that 19.5 contract there.
That's better. I know for everybody involved, I think, because we haven't, I'll be honest with you, we haven't really seen him really break out. And maybe that was a problem just with who was trying to get him the ball. Maybe that's the reason why. You want to see someone like that who has the ability to break out do so. So I'm just waiting for that to happen for him. I think that's been it for the Patriots, right? Just those two signings.
Also Hunter Henry is back.
Oh, yeah. So I thought they were going to move on from him, honestly. I didn't think they were going to re-sign him, but maybe he'll do better. I want to see again who they're going to have at quarterback. I know Zappy will compete for the starting job, but whoever they draft, man, I just hope
he was quite something today. Speaking of Zappy, I'll talk to you after that. If you didn't know in terms of what's going on there, but keep going.
Yeah, with Henry though, I felt like, man, once he left the Chargers, he wasn't really doing much. He came on a little bit last year, but not too much to the point where I didn't think he was going to be back. So I guess that's a good signing. He knows at least the system there. That has to be it, right, for the Patriots for now.
I mean, this right now. I mean, they did get a offensive tackle that is kind of like a swing tackle because we needed some kind of offensive line depth in the past, and it hasn't happened. But we got this guy from Pittsburgh, which I've heard very mixed about, but you know, hopefully specifically that he can kind of come in, and obviously former Trent Brown, obviously too. He said a couple days ago that he is not likely coming back to the team, which for me specifically. I've loved Trent Brown in the past, but last specifically was just a disaster. He was either just not being at practice, he was either late at practice, or he just was not coming in shape. So I'm kind of ready for it overall for him to move on from it. I also want to see specifically this week, and obviously I'll save kind of the rest for our team report specific in terms of who I want guys back with. But speaking of Zappy, you mentioned Zappy. Did you see specifically
No.
when Instagram posted the Mac Jones to Jacksonville? Obviously they kind of do all that transaction stuff. Bailey Zappi liked the post of Mac Jones to Jacksonville on Instagram. Do you see that?
No, I'm trying to think. Maybe it was because
Yeah.
they kept fighting over the starting job. I know Belichick liked Zappy over Jones. You could just tell.
Yeah.
That thing in the locker room that happened, with I think it was after the Steelers win. He hugged Jones hugged one coach,
maybe.
and they went over to shake just Bill Belichick's hand, like it was, oh, you're here, okay, yeah, congrats, yeah. But with Zappy, you could tell that I think he was liked by everyone. So I think. Oh, also I remember too. There was times with Jones where everybody got frustrated with him. He was yelling, "Run the ball!" I think a couple of years ago. I think it was just good to part ways, just with someone who was never going to work there.
Right. Yeah, no, and like I said, I have nothing against him. I know there's a lot of Patriot fans that were like throwing parties and stuff today, online here and there, and I'm hopeful for the best for him. I think it was kind of indifferent of two things. The team failed him miserably. They didn't give him the proper stuff around him specifically. I thought maybe that if they gave him that, maybe more of his potential kind of breaking out. But kind of the end of his contract with the team, he did no favors. He was kind of starting to become more of a distraction. And his frustration in the past couple of years kind of really let out this past year. So I think that they're kind of just like, yeah, well, Tom obviously to kind of move on, new fresh start specifically. And obviously with Belichick too, I think kind of when he moved on, I thought that Mac Jones was kind of ready to move on. But the thing about Mac Jones is that was a Robert Kraft pick. Bill Belichick didn't want Mac Jones originally when he was in the draft, but essentially Robert Kraft wanted because that was kind of the right choice at the right point in time of the team. Ever since the Cam Newton kind of days, obviously that was kind of a Cook type thing after Brady locked, so they needed kind of somebody to pick in the draft. They're like, yep, we'll pick Mac Jones. Obviously kind of in that overall draft club, which now James, it's like it's kind of okay. It's not great, but a lot of people are hyping up to be one of the better draft classes in the past. So, yeah, I mean, I wish Mac well. He's going back to Jacksonville where he's from. So, and also too, CJ Beathard, the backup, is battling an injury, according to Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. So that it kind of makes sense, kind of after looking at it, because at first I'm like Jacksonville, really. But it's cool because the Patriots are going to face Jacksonville this upcoming season. So Mac's going to be able to kind of face his former team. And yeah, like I said, I just wish him well. So we'll talk obviously more about my team later on, but let's kind of go to some more news around the league because we got still a lot of stuff to talk about. And Chris Jones, who is by far the number one free agency on the market, is officially now off the board. He signed a massive contract extension last night with the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a 5-year deal, 95 mil guaranteed. James, obviously, we both picked in our free agency prediction special with Isaiah a couple days ago that he was going to return back to the Chiefs. I just didn't see a big reason in terms of why he'd leave. They've won the last 2 Super Bowls. He's been their anchor on that defense. He's a game changer specifically. So this was very smart for the Chiefs to lock him up specifically and, keep on trying to go after more Super Bowls with one of the best defensive players now inked up for 5 more years. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. I was kind of shocked though about the how many years. I thought it'd
Yeah.
be like maybe 2 or 3 years, but we've seen defensive players that make such an impact, like Von Miller, get 5 years, and that was kind of a shocker too. What Buffalo did, but about Chris Jones, he's the second most important player on that team. You know, first is Pat Mahomes, of course, and then Jones anchors that defensive line and the whole defense. It starts with him. And everybody else gets involved, and they got younger defensively, so that's helped them. And then, did they tag Snead? I'm trying to
So
remember.
they tagged him, but there's been a lot of chatter that he might be traded. And now
Mm,
specifically, if it's a long-term deal that Jones got, I don't know specifically the Kansas City cap specifically right now, but I think personally they gave a lot of money just for Jones specifically, and they might kind of cheap out a little bit in terms of receiver because they still need it for Mahomes. But I think without Evans off the board, I know Isaiah picked Calvin Ridley, which I think could be very possible for them. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tag and trade. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought Snead back, but I just think that he's going to get overpaid somewhere.
oh yeah. So yeah, for Jones, I remember. I think after the Super Bowl in that interview with Boomer and what's his name, Booger.
Yep.
That he's like, hey, I want to come back here, and then at the parade, he said, I want to come back here. And they're like, yeah, yeah, sign me, sign me. I want to do us all again. I don't think he'll go the whole contract. I think he'll retire maybe after 2 years or 3 years. So it it probably won't be a problem later on unless he stays the whole five. Because eventually you have to pay others around you who blossom. So it just depends. But it's a good move for now because again, he's the best defensive player on the team. And you didn't want him to go anywhere else because if he did, it'd be bad, I think, for that defense. And I never believed the rumors about. I know Chris Jones, I think, put out a cryptic tweet out there, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was on Instagram, or no, I think it was on X, where
Mm-hmm.
it was for him to go to the Raiders, and I never thought that. The Raiders don't need him. They don't need somebody at that age and for that much money right now. I think they can work with who they have, so or get someone else. But yeah, this is two parties that needed to continue with each other.
We welcome Isaiah Leon here to the program as always, our fellow co-host. Of course, I know it looks like Isaiah, you're coming out of work, my friend. So I hope you're doing well. I've had a good weekend, and it's going to be a fun week this week. And obviously, me and James are kind of getting the show kind of started with a lot of stuff that currently transpired. But Isaiah, how are we doing?
What's up, Ben? What's up, James? Hope you guys are doing well, man. The fun is already kind of beginning. I mean,
Yeah, it's been busy a little bit.
the Christmas presents of free agency has been like sneakily been open. So it has started already, which is great. But man, I can't wait for what I'm terming it football Christmas Day tomorrow. When
Say
free
that.
agency opens and we see like what kind of presents that our teams are giving us for this upcoming football season. It should be fun, you know. And I expect a flurry of moves to start right away when free agency opens at 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Make sure you guys, that are watching the show, tune in tomorrow because we will be doing, me, James, and a bunch of other people, we will be doing a NFL free agency, or what we're saying is the Football Christmas Festival, which is a watch party for free agency. We'll be doing it tomorrow. I think we'll do it at around 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. on the East Coast. So if you guys are free, feel free to
in
pop.
or my lunch break.
Yeah. Feel free to pop in and give your thoughts on all the moves that are gonna happen. But man, I can't wait, man. If today is an indication of what's coming, I think we're in for a very, very wild Monday, and Tuesday and Wednesday of free agency. But yeah, man, it's doing well. Just got off work. The only thing I'm bummed about, James and Ben, is I put a $15 bet on the Knicks to beat the Sixers, and for them to lose and lose the way they did, 79-74. Who scores only 74 points in today's NBA? Like, and I was out here saying, like, I don't know, Ben, if you watched the show last week that James and I did, but I said there's a new star in New York City. Dante DiVincenzo is
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown of the New York Knicks. Brunson is Tatum. They have they have the equivalent of Tatum and Brown there. The Knicks are the best team in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks are coming. And what did the New York Knicks do? Lose 79-74 to a Joel Embiid-less Sixers team, man.
And Maxey. Maxey wasn't out there either.
Oh yeah, man, it makes it even worse. So I basically thank you to the New York Knicks for making me throw $15 down the drain.
It was 15-50 after one quarter. 15 tied at 15. I couldn't believe it.
I was watching it in the third quarter because I was trying to get ready for the show and I was doing some other stuff. And I looked at my brother. I'm like, "Is that real? Is that score real?" And he's like, "Yeah." So like 15 points in the first quarter. So it was really light. All right, Isaiah. Well, welcome to the program as usual. And Isaiah, obviously, we kind of got a little bit of the moves already kind of talked about. Of course, I kind of talked about some of my Patriots moves that has already transpired ahead of this week. And I'll kind of recap it kind of more back to our team reports. But Isaiah, I do want to obviously talk to you, and I asked James this already, is the Chris Jones extension with the Chiefs. And obviously me and James, of course, picked Chris Jones to go back to the Kansas City Chiefs specifically. This should not come as a shock by anybody, to be honest, specifically. He got a massive payday with them. I even saw Patrick Mahomes like retweeted it after kind of he had the cryptic tweet. I'm just like, it was pretty much inevitable at some point. So Isaiah, I'm just going to ask you, my friend, is this obviously something you were not, obviously surprised about? Is this kind of something that's, pretty much supposed to have in the Chiefs? And obviously kind of seeing what he saw in the playoffs. He's a game changer. And obviously the Chiefs are going to have that for the long term. So that had to be done, and the Chiefs fans should be really pleased about this.
I'm not surprised because I thought that he was going to get paid all along. I mean, definitely he's going to get paid because he was the top free agent available. And, I am kind of shocked at the destination. I thought I picked him to leave Kansas City because I thought, like, okay, he's going to get probably like $35 million a year. I just don't know if Kansas City has that money to be able to give a defensive lineman 30 to 35 million. I mean, you're basically giving him mid quarterback money. So I didn't think Kansas City had the money to do it, but good for them. I mean, they're keeping the guy that keeps their defense together. They're keeping a guy that is very instrumental to them winning Super Bowls. And it's obviously very huge for them to keep him because if they had lost Chris Jones, their defense is like, okay, it's not the greatest. They don't really have a lot of superstars on defense, but that defense would have been a massive hit for the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's a great thing that they kept him. I thought he was going to go to the Patriots, honestly, because I thought New England was one of those teams that would, that could offer him like mid-tier quarterback money at $35 million per year. And the Patriots, they have a defensive-minded head coach. You're building the defense to have the defense carry you while your quarterback of the future develops and grows into the player that you want him to be. So I am kind of shocked at the destination. I thought he was going to go to because he's won so many Super Bowls. I thought that he was going to go to like a team that just there for the bag, but obviously he wants to win more Super Bowls, so I can't fault him for that.
100% agree. Let's keep continuing now with obviously some more of the offseason stuff and the signings that has transpired. Quarterback Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay Buccaneers today agreed on a 3-year, $100 million, $15 million guaranteed extension to have him re-sign with the Buccaneers. And this was another one that I picked in our offseason special. This shouldn't come out as a surprise by any means for anybody specifically. Obviously, Isaiah, I'm pretty sure you mentioned that Liam Cohen is the offensive coordinator that was with the Rams, and now he's with the Buccaneers. So obviously there's that connection there. Mike Evans obviously came back to the Buccaneers. So, Antoine Winfield is back with them. Baker Mayfield is back, and Mike Evans. 3 essentially of their key offseason moves. The Bucs are back as the NFC South specifically with Tampa Bay there and a couple others. That's a really good signing for the Bucks, and really happy for Baker. Of course, he's gone through a lot of adversity in the last couple of years. He came to this place specifically in Tampa Bay. He balled out his first year there, and obviously he got a really good payday. 3 years maybe is a little too extreme, but I like the deal with them, and I think that just really pays off for both parties. Isaiah, I'll go to you first. Your overall thoughts of Baker Mayfield going back to the Bucks.
Yeah, this was a no-brainer. This was the perfect place for him and the perfect quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3 years, I would say, is a little bit extreme, but I mean, given the circumstances, it's not as bad as what Daniel Jones got. I know me and James were talking on the phone when this deal broke, and we were talking about Daniel Jones actually, because we were talking about the Giants potentially getting Russell Wilson, and then who's going to trade for Daniel Jones and that contract of his. But you look at this deal, I mean, $20 million per year. It's a good deal for both Baker and the Bucks. It also gives Baker an opportunity to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. And also it gives the Bucks opportunities to spend more around him to get better weapons and better offensive line, so they can keep their status as a playoff team. So I like this deal a lot. I think it's good for both parties that they got it done.
Agreed. And James, what's your thoughts of Baker going back to Tampa?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a 2 or 3 year deal. I didn't think it would be that much money, especially guaranteed. But I think it's a long time coming for Baker Mayfield because, God, he's just been moving around a lot. Think about the Browns who kicked him to the curb, and then, end up with LA and Carolina and not really getting a shot there, and then landing with Tampa Bay, who really needed some stability. And both the team and Baker needs some stability, and finally got it there. I like it. So I'm shocked by the terms of the contract, not really the years, but the money. Like Isaiah said, a chance to really prove himself to try to get into that top 15, top 10 maybe, if he does better. Man, it really helps though having Mike Evans back. I know that was the worrisome issue for Bucks fans. Was like, hey, are we gonna, we didn't get Evans signed, during the before the season and during the season. I don't know if he's gonna come back, and that's our guy. He's been there forever. And now that they got everything done, now they can work on little things, getting the running game together. The defense is a little young with all the older players getting cut. So they've done everything right this offseason. So it's been good, and this just sustains it. And that's what they need, sustainability.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean the Bucks right now, their main focus is now to work on that defense. They are likely going to move on from Levante David. I believe they cut Jack Barrett, and they're also opening to moving on from Carlton Davis III, as well as Jamel Dean, and their cornerback and safety position. So obviously that's kind of something to look forward to, and this week specifically for the Bucks. Moving on here, and obviously. James, your Raiders, their center has resigned to remain. The terms, it didn't seem like I found the terms on it specifically, but it is a Andre James. Your name. Your last name. But yeah, what's your overall thoughts on him? I obviously don't really follow the Raiders that much. No offense, James, but in terms of the guy, specifically your center, how do you feel about it? And yeah, he's obviously going to be coming back.
Yeah, you're lucky you don't have to follow the Raiders. Yeah, 3-year, $24 million deal.
Okay, thank you.
Just something that need to stay, because remember, I think it was last offseason or the offseason before, they weren't really young on the offensive line. They traded a couple of older offensive line players away, and then they drafted some, and then they promoted some. So Andre James is kind of the anchor on that offensive line right now, and he needed to be there and protect whoever going to be the quarterback. So it's really weird because I don't know what the hell's going to happen, with the running back situation. But but the offensive line has to be stable enough so the quarterback has time to throw, of course. So this is a really, really good move. Just somebody who's familiar, of course, and just it's going to stay there for a little bit. The Rays really need this, I should say.
Is there any thoughts?
Sorry, I was muted. But no, I mean, like I don't really follow the Raiders. If they get Jamal Adams now, I will follow them for sure. You know, in terms of this move, I mean, it looks like he was like their only like good player on that offensive line. That offensive line was all right. I mean, it wasn't the best. James, is Alex Leatherwood still on the offensive line, or did he get cut too?
No, he got cut a while back.
Okay, because I know he was one of like the guys that you guys drafted, hoping that he could be like your.
He ended up in Chicago this season.
And then you guys have Colton Miller still, right?
Yeah, he's the young gun, and then Andre James is kind of that solid veteran that we need to keep on, and they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a decent deal. I mean, you have to, you know, pay a premium to keep your offensive line, especially good players in the offensive line, and especially with the Raiders, a team that you don't know who's going to be the quarterback. I mean, I've heard like rumors of Drew Lock. I've heard that they're going to draft a guy. I've heard that they're going to sign someone to be a bridge quarterback. I think there was talks that the Raiders were actually one of the teams that had fond interest in trading for Mac Jones.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, that was one of the guys that I had heard about. Like, so it looks like the Raiders, like what I'm looking at from the Raiders is they're trying to get a bridge quarterback so the rookie can just sit on the bench and just develop and go through his growing pains. So whether you have a bridge quarterback or you eventually thrust the rookie quarterback into the mix, you're going to need someone to protect him, because if he's always getting hit, no matter who you have at quarterback, it doesn't matter. He's going to struggle. So I do like this move a lot for the Raiders, given the fact that there's really not a lot of quality offensive linemen out there on the market this year.
Ben, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, James. Before we get into the cut candidates and the guys to look forward to for the cut guys we will mention, let's go to a couple more other news that kind of transpired the last couple of days. Well, obviously, you don't have to go through all the reactions, but I have three more other moves that kind of transpired that stood out to me. The Bears today got two-time Pro Bowler Kevin Byard, safety from the Eagles. Byard obviously was a long-term Tennessee Titan. So I think with the Bears specifically, they cut Eddie Jackson. That really helps their back end specifically. Ryan Poles obviously struck really well there. I think Byard still has a lot of good years left ahead of him. Tyler Lockett, receiver. He's remaining on Seattle on a 2-year restricted deal, $30 million. Pretty solid year, $15 million per year, obviously, on that. And then Jerry Jeudy, obviously a guy the Patriots have kind of, I think, been kind of linked to the last couple years, and they obviously reportedly were linked to him when this news came out a couple of days ago. But Jeudy has gone from the Broncos over to the Cleveland Browns to help with their wide receiver core. Obviously, the Browns right now have Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and now you have Jerry Jeudy, and the Browns don't have to get like anything for him. That was an absolute steal. I think Jeudy still has a lot left in the tank. He's young. So those are kind of the last three moves specifically that have kind of stood out to me specifically. So Isaiah or James, either one of you guys can go. Any of those three moves specifically kind of stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean the Jeudy one for me, because literally less than 24 hours before that move happened, I went on our free agency preview special and I predicted that Kirk Cousins was going to be a Denver Bronco. And now that most likely is not going to happen because, I said Denver has a veteran team. They went 8-9 last year and they nearly made the playoffs. So you just need a quality quarterback out there with the weapons that you have to potentially make a run for the playoffs. But now it looks like Denver's really entering into a rebuild, which I don't understand because they have talented young players. And they have a good coach in Sean Payton who is there. And, I feel like with the right quarterback, I feel like they could make the playoffs. But I think Sean Payton is, and I hate to say this, but Sean Payton, everybody thought he was going to be the next Andy Reid because, second coaching job, you expect more success with a veteran proven coach coming in that he would have a lot of success. But I'm going to go an avenue where James is comfortable with, and that is I think Sean Payton is going from Andy Reid 2.0 to John Gruden 2.0. I mean, this dude went into an organization, they gave him all the power,
Yep.
and guess what? He's just completely tearing it down when he doesn't have to. You just need a quarterback, and then you just need a quarterback, and you will be able to get into the playoffs and win right away. They nearly made the playoffs last year. Now they're cutting everybody because Sean Payton apparently wants to have the Broncos in his image. I mean, Sean Payton better nail free agency in the draft and the rebuild of this team, because if he doesn't and it blows up in his face like it did with John Gruden and the Raiders, or it's a mediocre product out here, Sean Payton will not last more than 2 seasons or more than 3 seasons with the Denver Broncos, and it will completely smear his reputation. And we talk about everybody talks about, oh, Brady carried Belichick. Well, now you can make the case Drew Brees carried Sean Payton, because without Drew Brees, Sean Payton is nothing more than a mediocre head coach. And I think that, with Sean Payton, he needs to nail this week, the draft, as well as this upcoming season, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I don't know why Denver's doing this. You could have traded, if you were really wanting to rebuild, you could have traded Jerry Jeudy last offseason or at the trade deadline and gotten at least a first-round pick or a second-round pick for him. But they didn't. They waited. They traded him now, and you're getting a 5th or 6th round pick for him. Like, you just
conditional too.
Yeah, exactly. You just completely lost so much value right there. And it reminds me of some moves that sadly John Gruden would make, where you would hold off on trading a player and then you would wait, and then guess what? You would end up getting so least value back. So this just really befuddles me. I don't know why Payton's doing it. I don't think the offense or the players are the problem. I just think Sean Payton has too big of an ego where he wants his system to be like the main focus, and it just doesn't make any sense because they do have talent on that team. In terms of the other moves that happened, I think, what were the other moves that you listed, Ben?
So Kevin Byard, safety from the Eagles, has now gone to the Chicago Bears over for, I think, I'm trying to remember the terms. I think it was a 2 or 3 year type deal. I have to refocus on that. Tyler Lockett also came back on a 2-year restructured deal to remain in Seattle.
Bird was a 2 for 15.
Thank you.
So Lockett's no brainer because he's a mainstay in Seattle. He's part of that talented offense. I mean, the Seahawks' problem is never their offense; it's their defense. I mean, their defense was so bad last year. That's why they ended up not making the playoffs. I think the Seahawks, keeping Lockett, it's a no-brainer. They have to keep that wide receiving core of Metcalf, Lockett, and Smith and Jigba. And then in terms of Byard, I don't like that move because I watched Byard a lot last year because I watched a lot of Eagles games, and Byard just looked like he was washed. And so I feel like if the Bears want to go with the veteran at safety and they want an improvement, why not spend the money that you have and go get a Justin Simmons? Because I think he would be so much better than Kevin Byard. Byard just looked washed last year. So, I would say those are my thoughts on the moves. And Matt Eberflus, that's another guy. We talk about coaches on the hot seat. Matt Eberflus is another guy with a lot of pressure. Because if he doesn't win next year, the Bears are most likely going to part ways.
All right, James, any leftover thoughts on these moves?
Man. Yeah, with Jeudy, it seemed like all last offseason that he was going to be traded. And now, like Isaiah mentioned, Denver just settled for the 5th and 6th rounders from Cleveland this year. Now, man, with Watson having Cooper and Jeudy
Nick Chubb, possibly.
Njoku, and then hopefully a healthy Nick Chubb coming back along with the running game. It's almost like Deshaun Watson. You have no excuse now, other from injury. You have to ball out. I mean, your contract is awful. You just have to show up better, and this is just another part of that. And with Judy too, it seemed like he got lost in the fold sometimes, or didn't really give it his all. And I think the fan base in Cleveland would see that if that does happen. I agree with Isaiah with Kevin Bird. There's a reason the Titans got rid of him. Traded him to the Eagles last year, and then now that he was a free agent, you knew that somebody was going to get him eventually, and then you just wondered though. Would you rather have a Eddie Jackson over a Kevin Byard? But I think Eddie probably made more. But that was interesting to me. Tyler Lockett, it was good for him to restructure his deal. Maybe the Seahawks can go out and really work on their defense. Go after a Leonard Williams, maybe keep him around in free agency. He's right there. It seems like everybody likes him. The GM likes him, so maybe they can put that money toward Leonard Williams, keeping him up front. I think also Brandon Graham coming back was interesting. It seems like he'll never retire. And then Fletcher Cox retiring. He was also there forever, it seemed like. And then I know 49ers, the Jets got Isaiah Oliver. So we have an Isaiah leaving the 49ers. That was interesting. And then the Packers releasing Devondre Campbell. That creates $10.5 million in cap room. It's amazing how the defense for the Green Bay Packers, it was supposed to be something great. Because they did it through the draft and they did it through free agency. Remember, I think a couple of off seasons ago, they went on a shopping spree for defensive players. And it seems like none of them are really working out that much. And Campbell was one of those that just never really worked out there. Oh, I think I have breaking news here.
We got the breaking news sounder. Hold on. Before wait, hold on. It sounds like it. I don't know if I found many breaking news. I think I have it. Hold on. All right. Go. I don't know what happened here in my background. All right, go ahead, James.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are signing Russell Wilson to a one-year deal.
I knew it.
Wilson is 35 years old. We all know. Wow. And wow, that was about 10 minutes ago, and it just came up on my feed.
Okay. I mean, so I said, during the show, I said if there's any type of news that you guys see specifically, let us know. Russell Wilson is going to become a Pittsburgh Steeler. Obviously, I was going to talk about Russell Wilson in our matchmaker segment. And who was the one during our show that had Russell Wilson to the Steelers? This guy right here. I don't think the Steelers really knew in terms of their quarterback situation, in terms of their future with Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, I was going to say Mitchell Trubisky. He was just there. Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. So what do you guys think with this breaking news that Russell Wilson is now a Steeler? I'll go to you, Isaiah. Wow.
What did I say? Football Christmas is getting earlier and earlier now, man. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if we have some news leaked tonight about Kirk Cousins and others.
There already some news about him, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a preview of what's going to happen tomorrow. I can't wait. James, we might have to start at, right at 9 a.m. tomorrow, right when free agency begins, because there's going to be hella flurry.
No.
But I mean, it's crazy. My reaction to the move is, number one, I think Kenny Pickett is going to be gone. I don't think that this shows that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a lack of trust in Kenny Pickett moving forward. And, I think we talked about this on one of our shows in the past, that The Pittsburgh Steelers, there was a divide in that organization about, is Kenny Pickett the guy moving forward? And this just shows that they're not, because you don't bring in a guy like Russell Wilson, who had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year. If you believe in Kenny Pickett, you don't. So I think Kenny Pickett's not going to be a Steeler anymore. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, this actually gives the Steelers, I think, clarity at the quarterback position, because you don't bring in Russ without having without telling him that he's going to start. So I think this tells me that he's going to start, and I like it, because the Pittsburgh Steelers were like the Denver Broncos like last year. They just needed a quarterback, a competent quarterback out there to run the offense and just to get the ball to the playmakers. That's it. And they could have won a bunch more games. So I think Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, I think it will be a good move for them. I think that, the Steelers, I really think that that core, Dante Johnson, Najee Harris, they'll be able to lean on the run game. Russ doesn't have to do too much. So I like the move. But it also now it creates more quarterback havoc, because where is Kenny Pickett going to go? We talk about Daniel Jones. Where is he going to go? Where is Kenny Pickett going to go? And if you're Pittsburgh, fellas, I think there's another team that just threw themselves into the quarterback draft class market, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I don't think Russell Wilson's the long-term answer. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, with this loaded quarterback class, I could see them drafting their future quarterback in this draft class now because of this. But it's great. It's a great move for Russell Wilson. I think he will benefit and he'll ball out in Pittsburgh, because a lot of people were saying how, oh, he's done, he's washed. Yes, he's not what the old Russell Wilson was, but the two things, Sean Payton did not let Russell Wilson much run out of the pocket. Like, I don't understand that move by Sean Payton, when Russell Wilson has had success running around and around and making plays on his legs. It just didn't make any sense. And also with the Steelers, Russell Wilson, I think, will have more freedom on the offense to do what he does best, and he doesn't have to rely on him throwing the football. I think this is a perfect fit for Pittsburgh.
All right, James, what do you think of this breaking news that you broke to me?
Oh, man. I don't necessarily think it's the end of Kenny Pickett's time in Pittsburgh. I don't. I just think that that's just some competition in training camp. That's what I think it is, and in preseason. And then you go with the better quarterback. Mike Tomlin is just going to have to do that. And with the new OC there, that's going to be interesting. We've seen how Russell Wilson, has played over a couple of years. It hasn't been so good. Kenny Pickett, of course, was the guy that, was in the building at Pitt. So I think they still want to see what he has left, and maybe with a little kick in the butt there, maybe with some competition, saying to yourself, well, we'll have the best of both quarterbacks, because, Russ wants to show that he still has something left. He's not as unlimited as he used to be, but maybe he can do something better than what he's done. And just think, they have George Pickens, they have some other weapons. Petermuth is there. Good running game. But I still think Kenny Pickett's the guy in Pittsburgh, despite this move. I had either Steelers or Giants or Falcons or Vikings, but I couldn't really pick one. But I'm not really shocked by this. I think this will be a good move for Russell Wilson, but I don't know how many times we'll see him on the field as a starter, though. I'll be shocked.
Isaiah, you had something else to say? Seems like you have something else.
I think this also proves one thing. Number one is that there's more quarterback chaos and drama in New York with the Giants, because Russell Wilson was also going to visit the New York Giants as well. And now Daniel Jones knows, I'm not wanted in New York. And how is he going to feel moving forward? Him and Dable already are clashing, because, Brian Dable is clashing with everybody in New York with his coaching style. So I'm not surprised by that. But it definitely looks like the Giants want to move off of Daniel Jones. And also, I don't think Steven's going to want to hear this if he's watching, but if Kirk Cousins leaves the Minnesota Vikings, there's a very real possibility that Trey Lance will be a Minnesota Viking and will be their starter, because I think that their options are dwindling now, Mac Jones is gone, who they had interest is. Russell Wilson is gone, whom they had interest is. So if Kirk Cousins walks, a guy that they really had interest in was Trey Lance at the trade deadline, or at before last year at the offseason trade. I could see Trey Lance suiting up in purple and gold and starting for the Vikings.
We're going to talk a little bit about the Justin Fields latest because it is just absolutely staggering in terms of what type of value right now is going on with him. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, in terms of this deal, like I said, I thought this was going to be something where Pittsburgh was going to get him, regardless in terms of he's going to be the starter or not. But wow, if you told me that Russell Wilson would be a Pittsburgh Steeler in the year 2024, I'd call you crazy. But here we are, and obviously that's the latest breaking news here on the show. In terms of yes, Russell Wilson after a visit has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, according to Ian Rappaport and others. All right, let's continue in terms of our latest stuff specifically, because of course it seems like it's getting closer and closer with a lot of buzz that we want to talk about. So the cuts that have happened today and recently, James, you kind of already started with Devondre Campbell, linebacker from the Packers. I still think that he still has a lot left in the tank still there. Justin Simmons is obviously one that's opening a lot of eyes. Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. Obviously, Seattle's in kind of big cap hit right now. And then two guys from Miami, Jerome Maker and Xavier Howard. Who are some of the guys that you essentially kind of looking at that could be deal breakers for some teams? At least for me, I'll kind of start Justin Simmons, and I'm going to go with Xavier Howard. Two guys specifically I still think has some stuff left. Now, Justin Simmons, to me, if I had to pick a team for him, I mean, he can go to anywhere and thrive. I mean, that's pretty much kind of that. I mean, Xavier Howard, the team that I'm looking at for him is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, I believe he's from that area. The Texans need some cornerback help, and I feel like in the past he's expressed, yeah, he's from Houston. He's 30 years old. I think that'd be a great fit for the Texans. But who are some guys on that cut list? And obviously, there's going to be more. Daniel Rossini said today on The Athletic, watch guys tomorrow that are essentially for teams that are in big cap hill that, for guys to get caught, guys like Mike Williams, for example, and some others. So I'll start with you, Isaiah. Who are some guys that you're looking at?
Well, the one already happened. I was very shocked by it, and that is my Niners cutting Eric Armstead. I mean, I'm very
Armstead,
shocked.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that move. I did not expect it whatsoever. He was one of the 49ers' better defenders on that defensive line. He was very productive when it came to affecting the quarterback, when it came to stopping the run, taking pressure, and taking double teams and triple teams away from Nick Bosa and everybody on that stout defensive line. I'm shocked by that, and it really tells me a couple of things. Number one, I think the Niners. Remember how, fellas, I kept telling you last week on our NFL prediction special that I think that there's going to be one team, or there's going to be a couple of teams out there that you're like, wow, where did this team come from in terms of being that contender that you're like, they're in salary cap hell, but somehow, somewhere they come out and make big move after big move after big move. And especially with that $30 million jump in that salary cap, a lot of these teams that are contenders that you're ruling out normally, they're going to be able to make a lot of these big time moves. I think the Niners are going to be one of them, because you don't release Eric Armstead unless you have a plan to go get one of the top defensive linemen on the market. And now, James and Ben, I won't be shocked if Christian Wilkins ends up a Niner, just like last year with Javon Hargraves. I mean, because you don't go out and do this without having a plan to replace Eric Armstead's production. He's a highly productive player. So I think either Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, or Christian Wilkins will be a 49er by the end of the offseason. And it's just a matter of when, not if. And I also think that this tells me that Chase Young's going to be back, because I think that the Niners have so much defensive linemen that are free agents, so they need a lot of defensive line help. And also, it's very interesting to see that, Armstead, where he will land, because he's a very productive player. Like, I think a team like the Jets, I think a team like maybe Miami, or the Texans with D'Amico Ryans, somewhere that Armstead has played, I think would definitely help. And imagine, guys, the Jets with that loaded defense with Quinnen Williams and Eric Armstead in the middle. I mean, oh my God, nobody's going to be able to run on those guys. But I mean, I'm very interested to see where he goes. I don't think he's going to get that $18 million per year deal he was making, but it'd be interesting to see where he goes. And please, for the love of God, Niners, do not bring back Javon Kinlaw to replace Eric Armstead. I mean, Eric Kinlaw's a decent player, but he can't get any push. I mean, I saw this guy getting bullied one-on-one by another team's offensive lineman. So I don't think that would be a good fit for the 49ers. But, yeah, that was definitely a surprise cut right there. Another one on the list. I don't know if he's on the list or not, but
Yeah.
I think that, I wouldn't be shocked. I think we talked about this guy on our free agency prediction special. I wouldn't be shocked if Stephon Diggs is moved. I think he's going to be moved because I just think the Bills are done with his attitude. I think that the Bills are just done with, him complaining all the time and being that locker room diva. I think they want Gabriel Davis to replace him as the wide receiver one because he doesn't give that attitude issues. And then I think the other guy that I could potentially see getting cut. This is tough. How about DeAndre Hopkins? It just seems like the Tennessee Titans are going nowhere. They're in a rebuild. Do you really want to pay that big money to a wide receiver when you're not going anywhere? You got a new coaching staff. Who knows if Brian Callahan will want a guy like DeAndre Hopkins on his team? Maybe he wants to start fresh. So my thinking is I could see DeAndre Hopkins getting cut just because they don't want to pay his large salary and keep him around.
All right, James, what's your overall thoughts on any of the cut candidates that I mentioned? If there's any that you, if we're kind of around as well too, what's your thoughts?
Oh no, linebacker Jerome Baker. Now he got cut this last week from the Miami Dolphins. His agent did leave the possibility of him rejoining the Dolphins, but for less. But I don't think logic would tell us he will not do that. Now, there's two destinations linked to Baker. One is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that there's a link there, and then there's a potential reunion with the Minnesota Vikings. And you ask why, but it's because of Brian Flores, the former head coach of the Dolphins. And you mentioned that because Flores is the defensive coordinator there now. And Jordan Hicks, the inside linebacker, will be a free agent. So there's probably a need there if Hicks decides to leave Minnesota. Baker might end up there. But my guess is that with the two reports out of Pittsburgh linking him to the Steelers, I could definitely see that. The Steelers did like him out of Ohio State a long time ago when he was drafted 6 seasons ago. So they might want him. But it's either those two destinations for Jerome Baker. And I thought he was going to be there with the Dolphins for a while. But I think with the money that they put towards others, you had to find someone to let go. Unfortunately, with him, I'm hoping Jamal Adams does not sign with the Raiders, but all the signs just go to there, like Isaiah mentioned. And then, defensive back Justin Simmons. I thought he was going to be a Chicago Bear, but I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. Devondre Campbell, I think, will end up somewhere. Maybe not on a contender, but we'll see.
Yep.
Xavier Howard, what bugged me about him last year is that he got injured, I think, 3 separate times. He was not available at the end of the season, at the beginning, and then in the middle. So basically almost the whole season. So that really affected me thinking Xavier Howard, being cut. I'm thinking, man, he'll probably get a 1-year deal somewhere, but don't expect much from him. So that's what I think on the ones that were cut today or recently.
All right, moving on. Let's go talk about our team reports. So this is kind of our team report pre NFL free agency week, tampering week. Of course, tampering is officially today, 12:04 a.m. my time. So it's officially today, Eastern time. And obviously the free agency, of course, ends until Wednesday for teams and to look at guys to sign contracts. But let's go to Isaiah in terms of your Niners. First of all, congrats to your GOAT, Brock Purdy, for getting married the other night. I
Yep.
saw that. I saw that specifically. James, maybe he got his ring after all. Sorry, Isaiah. But I had to put that in there, Isaiah. I'm really, really sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, I really feel bad for saying it too, but I saw people saying on social. I couldn't help but have to say it to you. But what are some key positions, Isaiah, of need for your Niners coming into this week, leading up to the next couple days?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one priority now is defensive line because Eric Armstead got cut. Chase Young is a free agent. We have a bunch of other defensive linemen that are free agents out here. So defensive line is a major priority now for the Niners. I won't be shocked, Ben and James, if the Niners are very aggressive to start free agency. And go out and get like a Christian Wilkins or go out and get some of those highly priced defensive linemen out there because they've shown in the past and they've prioritized defensive line forever under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan that I really wouldn't be shocked if they go out and make a big splash for some of the star defensive linemen out there. I mean, my dream, Ben, is Khalil Mack opposite of Nick Bosa with Chase Young in the middle and with Javon Hargraves in the middle as well. I mean, that'd be one of the scariest defensive lines out there. I hope the Niners make that happen. I really hope they do. I think the other key priorities is secondary. Our secondary is kind of weak right now. We have a lot of young guys running the secondary. I think we need to get another proven corner opposite of Charvarius Ward, and maybe another safety or a backup safety as depth. So just in case Hufunga's rehab is not going good, or Deshaun Gibson, or like he comes back and he shows his age, or G.I. Jeer Brown, with his inexperience, I think we need another veteran safety to really help this team. And then linebacker. I mean, we have Fred Warner. We have Drake Greenlaw is gonna. Who knows? He might be out for the first couple of weeks of the season because of his torn Achilles. And even when he comes back, you don't even know how he's gonna be because a linebacker who uses his athleticism and needs it coming off a torn Achilles is very, very tough, especially in that first year. So I could see and I know a couple of guys that were linked to the Niners when it came to linebacker was Azeez Al-Shire, who played with the Niners previous in Tennessee. I think he's a free agent. Bobby Wagner was another one that the Niners have reportedly been interested in forever.
Today, speaking of Bobby Wagner, he is moving on from Seattle, so he could be out there now.
Yeah, so that's another guy, especially with that, since the Niners run that Seahawks style defense, I think it'd be a perfect fit. Levante David is another one that I could see because he's a veteran. I think he wants to win another Super Bowl. Why not go to a contending team and be opposite of Fred Warner? And this is a guy that I really want. I don't think they'll get him because it'll cost too much. Devin White. If the Niners get Devin White, I mean, he's a young linebacker. He's still young. So you could go ahead and get him, and he's still very productive. And imagine him with Fred Warner and him for the first couple of weeks, and then you run out afterwards. You run out with Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, and Devin White as your three linebackers. I mean, good luck to the rest of the NFL. So I hope they get him. I don't think they will get him, but linebacker is definitely a high priority for me. And then the last one, it's not really that high of a priority. It's definitely like a priority, but not high. And that is backup quarterback because it just seems like the Niners get quarterbacks hurt every time, every season besides this year. So backup quarterback is definitely a priority. We need two because we have Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen, both free agents. I know there was talk that the Niners could trade for Mac Jones, or they were one of the teams interested. He went to Jacksonville, so that now is off the table. Zach Wilson is another one.
Drew
that
Lock? Because you talk about it a lot.
I mean, he wants 15 to 17 mil on his next deal, and he wants a starting gig. So I mean, I would love Drew Lock because he's proven he can start, but I don't know if I want him for that much money backing up. I mean, I heard today on a report that James's Raiders were one of the teams that was interested in Drew Lock as a bridge quarterback.
Dude,
And I even told, yeah, I even told James
Rip.
this that
Sorry, James.
they're interested in him, and they're one of the teams that could give him that much money because they do got like a lot of money to spend. So I could see Drew Lock being a Raider, but not a Niner. And then in terms of the other backup options, like I don't really know like what good backups there are. Like Zach Wilson, obviously.
I mean, you got Minshew, you got Flacco, you got Brissett.
Yeah.
I mean, those are kind of the tier 3. Obviously, like Russ and Fields are kind of like tier 1 in terms of like guys that could be out there, but they're gonna be high. They're gonna be like obviously Russ is now in Pittsburgh. Fields, I got a couple places that we'll talk about a little bit, but yeah.
You know, I got an idea. If I'm the Niners, because you need a proven backup with Brock Purdy. If Ryan Tannehill's market does not, if he doesn't have a market, I would go out and get Ryan Tannehill. I think that he'd be a perfect fit for Shanahan's system.
Interesting.
Oh, one more.
I mean, because Tannehill actually does pretty well with play action. I have seen some things with him on that, and the Niners usually use a lot of play action with that. All right, James, I'll go to you. What are some positions of need that you're looking for this week with your Raiders?
All right, so for the Raiders, they're really looking to spruce up the offensive line and the defensive line as well. The problem is they do have money to spend. It's only right now it could be more than $60 million in cap space, but this is predicated on the releases maybe of Jimmy G and Hunter Renfrow. That would create a combined $19 million in cap space. So that'd be great. So if you're going for a Christian Wilkins, from Miami. Mm-hmm. If you're going for another offensive lineman out there, Big Mike, like you mentioned the other day, from New England, you could go get that if you create that space. But then the other positions they need to go after, though, they have to figure out what they're going to do with Josh Jacobs, or just let him go. Basically, don't re-sign him. They didn't tag him. The fullback, Jacob Johnson, but I think you can wait to get him.
For sure.
Receiver DeAndre Carter, I'm not really keen on him. Austin Hooper and Jesper Horsted are both tight ends, but they're not necessary to have if you believe in Mayer, who was a rookie last year at Notre Dame. Yeah, he's solid. He just needs to get the ball more. And then the other thing, and I mentioned offensive line. So if they spend on offensive linemen, you can see tackles Jermaine Illumore or Brendan Parker get signed back. But if there's another option out there that they could spend on, you do it. There's also some guys up front like John Jenkins, the former Giant, I believe, who's a free agent. I don't know if they keep him around, or Belial Nichols or Adam Butler. Linebacker Curtis Bolton, but I don't think he didn't really have an impact on the games last year. And then one thing I'm worried about is cornerback Amik Robertson. Remember, he was the, I think, 5th round or 6th round pick out of SMU in 2020. And I remember on one of my YouTube shows predicting that he would get drafted by them late, and it did happen. It was either 4th, 5th, or 6th round, but I was very happy by that. And then finally last year, he made some strides. So I'm hoping that they re-sign him back, but I'm always worried someone will overspend and he'll go somewhere where he wouldn't be able to thrive as much. They did release Jerry Tillery. He was kind of off and on with the Raiders at defensive tackle. So I just think that with Antonio Pierce being the defensive coach that he is, and then Tom Telesco, the new GM, and they want to go defensive, but the thing is they have to do it through free agency. I know Telesco doesn't want to do it. He's more of a drafting kind of off-season person. You saw that with the Chargers in all those drafts. They don't like going through free agency. But if you have the cap space to do it, you might as well do it and try to get better. So, again, the needs, both lines. I would like another receiver personally to go with Myers and Adams there. And with running backs, they did re-sign White and Abdullah. So I don't know if there's room for Jacobs unless you overpay him. And I don't know if the Raiders want to do that. So it's just all up in the air. Both sides need help on the ball. But I could say this, guys, it's not as bad as it used to be. So that's about as good as I can think right now.
Yeah, I expect a lot from the Raiders. And think about this too, guys, because, of course, we're expecting some fireworks this week in terms of action. But the salary cap, of course, went up. So obviously there's probably going to be a lot more action than on top of the action that we're going to already get. So it's going to be a flurry of moves throughout this week. For my Patriots specifically, before Isaiah, of course, came on, you obviously mentioned Mac Jones going to Jacksonville for a 6th-round pick. Obviously, our quarterback position is going to be totally different this year. Of course, we're going to be the number 3 overall pick. Patriots could trade for Daniel Jones. Seth, I would pass on that specifically. Speaking of the Patriots, sorry, but yeah, I mean, I think that the Patriots are going to either go after Jaden Daniels or Drake May at the number 3 pick, and then get a backup veteran guy, whether it's the reunion with Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, Joe Flacco could be out there, Gardner Minshew possibly, but I think that's the Patriots route. I know that there's been some people potentially of them, going for Marvin Harrison Jr. and trading for like a Justin Fields type. I doubt that's going to be the case, but regardless of position, it's going to be fresh start. And Isaiah, I know that you love Bailey Zappi. You love me some Bailey Zappi. I don't think he's going to be on the depth chart this upcoming season. I don't think that there's going to be a spot for him. They're going to go quarterback 1 is going to be via the draft. Quarterback 2 is going to be a veteran free agency. Running back, I think we're okay with. I know that you mentioned Josh Jacobs from the Patriots, I believe, in our show. I'm a believer in Ramondre Stevenson. I do think at wide receiver 1 is massive. They've been needing a game changer for a while. Of course, Elliott Wolf said they need to weaponize their offense. So obviously, a guy like Calvin Ridley would be obviously massive there. Tight end, of course, we just brought back Hunter Henry. And obviously at receiver, of course, we brought back Kendrick Bourne. So 2 essentially of our key guys in the last couple of years are back. But, of course, we have to probably get a couple more guys. Maybe cut Devontae Parker. Maybe cut Judas Smith-Schuster. A couple of guys that kind of lacked in production for sure. But, yeah, I mean, those are kind of some things to look out for the Patriots specifically, defensively specifically as well. Maybe looking at the safety position, we'll have to see specifically what they do in terms of Kyle Duggar, of course. I know that they for sure tagged him, but I've been hearing potentially like tag and trade possibly with him. Time will tell about that. And then defensive line to pair up with Christian Barmore, of course. Eric Armstead, of course, with Isaiah's Niners, of course, is something maybe to look out for. Maybe Christian Wilkins, obviously, because, of course, he's from Massachusetts. There was one more guy specifically that I was looking at potentially as well with them. I'll have to probably remember that at some point as well, too. And then kicker is kind of like a sleeper one because we really lacked kicking last year. Of course, Nick Folk was pretty much automatic for a lot of our points a couple of years ago. Chad Ryan last year was kind of unproductive, I think, a lot of the year. So I want to be rolling out potentially a backup kicker too, but that's kind of what the Patriots really kind of need. They just need a lot specifically. But like I mentioned, a great start so far specifically. And yeah, so James obviously looked like Isaiah had to go, probably come back in a bit, but I kind of mentioned this kind of already as it is, but who are some players that your team hopefully can pursue this week? Looks like James had to go, so I'll be right back. He's still on. But for me, specifically for the Patriots, I do think that Calvin Ridley at receiver. I think that yeah, he'd be great. He'd really change a lot at that receiving position. I wouldn't rule out a trade either. Possibly for Brandon Ayuk. I know there's been a lot of chatter with his name. Maybe there was even chatter today for the Chargers because the Chargers are a massive cap hill. If they asking for Keenan Allen, I'd make a call instantly for a guy like Keenan Allen. I think that's very unlikely. I think they'll find a way to keep him for sure there. But a guy like that specifically, that you can get into production, especially if you're getting a young quarterback. You got to get him with a number one receiver because that's the best way to kind of develop those guys specifically. And I think that that's kind of one need specifically that they're in on. And there's been a lot of chatter so far that the Patriots are really heavily in on Calvin Ridley coming into the new league year tomorrow. So obviously watch out for that specifically. I did predict that a couple days ago too on our special show. And like I said, some other guys to look out for. Linebacker, I'd be interested potentially look at some guys at linebacker. I know that Mac Wilson today, there's a report out from Mark Daniels to Mass Live saying that he might be moving on specifically in terms of his asking price. But, they just have a lot of guys specifically that, there's a lot of really good candidates potentially to be Patriots. Justin Simmons, I think, would be a great fit, possibly in that back end. Cornerback, I wouldn't be against, like a Tre'Davious White type or Stephon Gilmore even. I know there's been some talk potential reunion with Steph. So, they just have a lot of positions of need, and they have a lot of guys specifically that can, make a difference and be game changers for them. James, do we have it back on here, my friend? I guess not. So when those two guys come back on, I'll kick away for myself, at least for the time being. Let me get quickly some comments. I know that Seth had some comments really quick. Seth, thanks for tuning in. Pages could trade for Daniel Jones given Brian Dable connection. Yeah, I just I didn't see that happen. I think that the Giants still are really tied in for that fifth-year option that they gave to Daniel Jones, and I just had no part in that whatsoever. Cut candidate Zach Wilson. Yeah, I mean Zach Wilson obviously got permission to seek a trade. There's no value there. Isaiah wants Zap in the 49ers. I mean, heck, he's probably going to be moving on from the team in New England. I just think that the Patriots are going to full on, rebuild it all. So that's that. Now, what are some teams to look out for this week, and what teams are to stand pat? And obviously, teams to watch out for this week. Of course, I'm not even trying to be biased myself, but the New England Patriots, of course, I think are one of the biggest spenders this week. They just have a lot of positions of need. They're number one in cap space, over $100 million in cap space. And yeah, I just think that the Patriots are going to go on a spending spree this week, especially with the salary cap going up. So they even have additional money on top of the money that they had. Another team to watch out for this week is the Commanders. The Commanders, obviously, I believe, are for around 80 to 85 million. They have a lot of positions to look out for. They are projected to be the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft. They might move on from Sam Howell. We'll see about that specifically, but I do think that maybe get a guy like a Gabe Davis type to help with that receiving core room. They need a lot of help on that defense. I know they moved on from Montrezl Sweat and Chase Young last year. Maybe they go out and get some pass rushers, with that team. But regardless, the Commanders are a team to watch out for. Of course, the Chicago Bears had a pretty big spree last year. I think that they're going to do another one this year for sure. Watch out for the Houston Texans. The Texans, of course, I think are a team that, of course, really grew last year. And that's a team to kind of look out for as well, too. Some teams I'm expecting to stand pat. Oh, man. I don't think that the Dolphins are going to do a lot. The Chargers, I think, are a massive cap. I don't think they're going to do a whole lot.
Yep.
Oh, James, welcome back, my friend.
Yeah.
Some other teams to watch out for that I don't think are going to do a lot specifically. I mean, Carolina, maybe if they get a receiver, but I don't think they're going to do a whole lot. I know Isaiah loves his 49ers, but the Niners right now are a massive cap hell. Just looking at the overall cap hell teams. So yeah, I mean, I'll ask you this, James, too. I don't know if you've heard specifically all the. We're going to
Mm-mm.
kind of talking about specifically in terms of some teams that I think are going to spend a lot, and some teams I think are going to stand pat, and some teams that I said that will spend I think a lot this week. I have the Patriots, the Commanders, the Texans. The teams I think are kind of stand pat are some of the teams in CapL, like the Saints, maybe the Bills a little bit, but I think the Bills might move some things around, which they've already kind of done.
Yeah, I was gonna
Chargers,
say.
the Chargers and the Dolphins. Yeah, we didn't even get the chance to talk. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the chance with the Bills. The Bills moved on from Jordan Poyer, and Tre'Davious White, two guys
Yeah.
specifically in their back room. Wow, it's going to be absolutely chaotic this week. But yeah, who are some teams specifically, James, you think are going to spend, and then some teams you feel are going to kind of stand pat?
Yeah, just looking at the cap space, and well, I think it's obvious. You look at the top of who has the most, they're going to spend. So Washington, New England,
Mm-hmm.
Houston, but I hope they do it carefully. I hope they
Yeah.
get veterans in there that won't, mess up what they have going. I hope they have ones that could be almost teachers in a way. Yeah, I can even see Jordan Baker going there. I know nobody was talking about it, but I think that'd be a good fit for their defense to make it a more veteran defense there. Chicago, the same thing. They just have to spin better and smarter than they did before. Cincinnati, it's just crazy because they spent a lot on the offensive line, over the past few years, and it never seems to work. Like Burrow gets hurt, something goes wrong. Seattle and Detroit. I think Seattle is important too because they have to figure out. Man, they have to spend smartly too. They have to get Leonard Williams back, but on the cheaper side. And then for quarterback, they have to figure that out too. But I don't think they draft high enough to get one of those good quarterbacks. They would have to trade up for that. So they would have to go for a veteran quarterback, but there's none out there that make sense to me right now. Detroit should go for defense. I think they're going to be spending to get even better, which is crazier to think about. They'll probably get somebody. Somebody had one for me, and it was Wilkins going there to go along with Hutchinson, and I thought, man, that would be awesome.
Probably, yeah.
They had a problem stopping the run last year. We saw that, and more of the passing, but the run. So I think if you have Wilkins there stopping the run with Hutchinson, and you have Aaron Glenn's blitzing corners and safeties, you have really something there if you add Wilkins. So the team and Indianapolis as well. And I think what did they bring back Pittman Jr. already, or am I wrong on that?
So they are now having tagged. Chris Ballard, their GM, said that he likely than not is going to stick around. I mean, there's right now specifically no indication of him moving on, unless something drastically changes. I think he's on the transition tag where he can get traded, but I don't think that there's any indication that's happening. So I think he's going to stay.
They should keep him and get better offensively. With the receivers, it seems like they're okay with tight ends. Some of them blossom for a little bit. They can always get better defensively. I know they were trying to replace Shaq there, so maybe they could do that.
I got a name specifically at our matchmaker fun event, which is kind of similar to what we just had not so long ago. But there's some names that we did not talk about last time that I put in that we can kind of talk about as well. And there's a guy specifically that I think I might have had at a different spot before, but the Colts, I think, for this guy would be a perfect fit. So,
all right, and then the teams, of course, not spending. Miami and the Chargers, they're both 21.
Yeah. Let's say we're structure guys.
Yeah. The Chargers have to figure out either to keep Bosa or Mac, and they have to cut either one or one of those. I mean, so that's going to be a very tough option for either or. I think you keep Mac, you let Bosa go because he's been injured too often, and then he's cost him some penalties, some really unsportsmanlike conduct penalties that's really hurt him.
Mhm.
Cleveland can't spend. Obviously, they have 540,000 there. Maybe get a ball boy for that, but other from that, there's not much. Yeah, Buffalo, San Francisco would have to restructure. Kansas City already did theirs. Green Bay might be sneaky with Carolina getting some players, but I
Seems
don't
like
think they'll
small
be
moves,
active.
Yeah.
So those are mine.
All right, cool. All right, now speaking of matchmaker, we're going to do the matchmaker fun event to complete our NFL segment. And obviously, this was a long segment, but of course, with free agency this week, there's a ton of smoke that I want to get out there. As they say, when there is smoke, there's fire. And obviously, we're going to have a little fun now with the matchmaker event. Obviously, we're doing some guides that we kind of talked about a couple of days ago. So there might be some repeats for those that are tuning in. So I do apologize about that. But let's go first to Kirk Cousins. Obviously, we talked about Kirk Cousins before. I have him going to the Vikings. Now, there is reports out there, and Isaiah, if you are tuning in, when you come back specifically, Diana Rossini from The Athletic, there was some spoke a little bit of him going to Denver, and of course, Isaiah had him as the Broncos specifically has Kirk Cousins' destination. But there's no indication that he's going to be a Bronco, according to Rossini. Right now, specifically, James, you might be on the driver's seat in terms of what he's going to be going to. There's been a ton of smoke with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, it sounds like specifically it's down to the Falcons or the Vikings. So either of us specifically is going to have the right destination. Are you still standing on with that Falcons pick?
Yeah, I believe in that. I believe in whenever the reports come up that the family's moving, that the wife has family in the area in Georgia. So I just have that. If that's going on, then I have that distinction that when there's smoke, there's fire, like you mentioned. So yeah, I still got Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. I think again it will help him having again what would be 9 games indoors. Like he had one in Detroit when healthy, but all the home games, of course, in Minnesota inside. We'll have the same thing with the Falcons, and then one in New Orleans, and then it's going to be a easier division in a way to win. You just have to slay the Buccaneers. You really have to do that. But you have all that stuff around you. You should be able to win. And I think they want to air it out. We didn't really get to see them air it out in Atlanta. And Kirk Cousins, that's what he loves to do. So I'm still going with Atlanta for Cousins.
Yeah, we'll probably see the decision by Kirk Cousins by probably today. Now, my time, the first day of tampering, he's probably going to be one of the first dominoes to fall. All right, next guy, Calvin Ridley. We've talked a decent amount of Calvin Ridley. I still have him going to my Patriots. There's still been a ton of smoke out there. Obviously, there's a return potentially there with Jags. I doubt it. But I think that the Patriots are just the biggest threat for Ridley. They need to weaponize their offense. They have some of the biggest money this offseason. It's just a perfect fit.
You know what bothers me right now? I just saw that J.J. McCarthy has been linked to the Minnesota Vikings. Or no, I'm sorry, to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sorry, to the Falcons.
This is why we're having our show tonight, because the rumors, fun stuff. Even at 12:33 my time, there's been so much smoke going on in rumors. You got to love to have it this time of year.
See, if he goes there, then I'm like, okay, Atlanta's filled. They're just going to go with a younger quarterback, and then Cousins would just go to Minnesota. Anyway, yeah, I have it just like you with Calvin Ridley that the New England Patriots will get him. They have all that cap money to spend. And they need some help more on the receiving core. Juju just didn't get it done last year. So, yeah, I got the Patriots.
I had one person saying the Jets. I don't know who it was, but I'm like, oh, man. You have him with Garrett Wilson. I mean, that's something with the Jets specifically just does not make sense. So, yeah, the Patriots specifically, I feel pretty good specifically. I'm one of those guys like Calvin Ridley to come here. More time will tell. Derrick Henry, obviously, we've talked decent about too. Now, I still have him with Baltimore. My stance is not good with that. They need a running game. I mean, their running game was massive strong to their success last year, and they barely ran it against the Chiefs for some odd reason. And I just think that they just don't trust the guys consistently there. I mean, Gus Edwards is obviously solid. He's not special, but he's okay. And they have Justice Hill. So, but then you put Derrick Henry there. It's like you could maybe even keep one of those guys because Derrick Henry is not that pass catching type back. They have maybe a guy that could be a pass catching type back. And J.K. Dobbins, too, James, is a free agent. So they essentially just have a lot of those situations up in question in Baltimore. And I just think that if he wants to try to get a ring, that'd be a great place to go. A team that had a lot of championship aspiration nods. Lamar's trying to get his first ring. Perfect fit. What do you think?
Ooh, this one's tough. Even though they lost Jason Kelsey to retirement, I still think the Eagles can block for Derrick Henry enough. And I think the Cowboys will strike out on him. I know there's a lot of rumors, like I heard all last week, that the Cowboys were going to get Derrick Henry, but I don't see that happening. Like, both teams really need it. Eagles and Cowboys, they need to get tougher with the running backs. But the Eagles, I think, are built more for them right now for Derrick Henry.
All right, next one is Saquon Barkley. Now, speaking of Saquon, Isaiah had him going to Dallas. And at first, I'm like, there's no way. But I've been reading some stuff the last couple of days, and there's potential chance that he might go to Dallas because I don't know if they trust Tony Pollard to stay healthy consistently. And he'd instantly be great with that offensive line there. But that would just absolutely be something that Giant fans, I don't think, could sleep for essentially a month, probably, if that happened. But for me, I got the Texans. I've really been a high on that train with Saquon. But the Chargers, watch out for the Chargers, James, with Saquon. They're going to move on from Austin Eckler, and that running back situation over in the Chargers is going to be probably a little thin. And, they still have some guys there offensively, and you put Herbert with Saquon. If Saquon, is a massive thing with Saquon, but if he stays healthy, that'll be a cool fit over in with the Chargers of Jim Harbaugh. So I'd say with the Texans or the Chargers with Saquon. How about you?
Yeah, I hope the Chargers don't get him, but then again, he would have to go low on his deal. Then Chargers again would have to get rid of one of those defensive players and make some more room. So it's not bringing back, Mike Williams and Eckler. For me, it just screams Houston. Again, I think that they need that veteran presence in the locker room and on the field. I would love for the Texans to do it. And they might have to overpay for him, which I'm kind of worried about. But I think Houston gets it done.
All right. Next one we got is Neil Hunter, defensive end from the Vikings. Now, Hunter was an absolute monster last year. I think he put up some of his career high numbers last year with the team. For me, James, I haven't. Thank you. Yeah. For me, I haven't gone to the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars should have the opposite. Yeah. That just feels like a fun type of place for him to go to. Opposite of Josh Allen, absolute monster as it is. That Jaguars team, James, if you have Daniil Hunter with Josh Allen, it would be a nightmare for quarterbacks, essentially opposition, because you just can't be able to stop either one if you have one guy or the other. So, yeah, I have him going to Jacksonville. That'll be more of Saxon all over again.
I didn't. Wow, I haven't heard that, but that the way you described it would make sense. For me, man, I'm gonna say Tampa Bay. I feel like since they just got rid of Shaquille Barrett and some other guys, even though but they just re-signed, Mayfield and Evans. But yeah, I think it'd be a good move. I think maybe they can move some money around to get him, to keep him, and keep everyone else they have. It'd be a great fit though. Todd Bowles would like it, being a defensive coach, and having a veteran around, I think, would really help.
That'd be a cool fit there. I mean, we both picked Florida teams. Let's go to Christian Wilkins. We've talked a decent amount of Christian Wilkins. I have him going to the Patriots. I think that the Patriots is going to be one of the bigger moves alongside Ridley. I have them going for, and the offseason that's been already fairly busy for the team. It helps specifically Christian Barmore on the defensive line. Kind of you have a veteran next to a young budding star that more likely than not probably be extended with us. And yeah, I mean, I just really love that. But he could be a force for a lot of teams. But I just think that with him, just with that interior presence, of course he's from Springfield, sorry. So he's from Massachusetts. He's of course he's played in the division before. I just think the Patriots are a great fit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Patriots. Well, for all the reasons you mentioned, I really think that'd be a good fit there. They need somebody to anchor that defensive line. I did mention some other places earlier in the show, but I think ultimately he'll go to New England.
All right, Adam Van Ginkel. Did we talk about him last show?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe there was some moves specifically that I didn't get a chance to talk about because I had to go specifically for the night. But Van Ginkel is an interesting one. He's kind of flown under the radar before. Oh man. You know what? I didn't really say this team a lot in the show a couple nights ago, but Seattle. Seattle, I think, would be a good fit for him. Seattle needs a lot of help in that from that front to kind of their linebackers and defensive end. And Seattle loves me some defensive ends that can make impacted plays. I think Van Ginkel would be a great fit for the Seahawks. How about you?
I like that. Somebody mentioned, yeah, he'd probably get like $12 million annually in free agency. Some team is screaming out to me, and I think it's the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
I feel like they need more defensively. That's where I'll predict him to go, but I'd love him for that Seattle. If he went to Seattle, I would love that for him in Seattle. That'd be good.
All right, the one that I did miss one specifically from the list. That's Gabe Davis. We both have him going to Washington, unless you have your stance.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. Odell Beckham Jr. We didn't talk about him last show. Now I know obviously he's kind of a little bit of baggage in the past. He had a decent, solid year with Baltimore last year, and I think more likely than not he is going to go somewhere else, probably for like a 1-year prove it type deal. I don't think he's going to cost a lot specifically because I just don't think he's the same player he once was. Oh man, James, this might be go full on Isaiah, not too full on Isaiah, but I had something about him with Detroit. A team specifically that might need a really good passing attack, but they have a lot of young receivers. And I just think that Odell Beckham with that team, for kind of a team that might be needed for, a veteran specifically to kind of help the younger receivers, he's already won a ring specifically. So I don't think at this point in time in his career, he's trying to chase one at this point in time. He's not going to cost a whole lot. I think Detroit's kind of mid part of cap space. So Odell Beckham to Detroit, that would be kind of fascinating. And I kind of actually wanted to see it happen. So how about you?
I got one that maybe will blow you away.
All right.
The New York Jets.
Okay.
Maybe he goes back to that market.
Yeah.
And tries to win with Rodgers 1 year. Just tries it out. The thing is, I'm kind of contradicting myself because he hates that turf there.
Yeah.
So maybe not. But I'm going to say the Jets for now.
Okay.
But look out for the Niners to be that sneaky team, maybe. Depending on if they keep, Jennings or if someone else leaves, maybe the Niners too. But I'm going to go with the Jets now.
As much as Odell Beckham has a lot of stuff off the field, I think some team's going to get a steal because he's still really talented. And I still think that he put up fascinating numbers last year with Baltimore that if you put him in the right system, watch out for make some production with your specific next team. All right, Gardner Minshew. I don't know if we talked about Gardner Minshew either on this last show. For me, I Minshew back to Indianapolis. I think that it's just a great fit with him there. Of course, he could so much Anthony Richardson, who unfortunately got the chance to really play a lot last year because of his injury. But yeah, I just think that he comes back on like a 1-year deal, probably, like a $7 to $9 million contract. Nothing crazy. But he's a backup type quarterback at this point in time, so he's probably not going to cost a lot. So I have him going back to Indy.
Yeah, I do too. Oh man, I think it all comes down to who the Vikings or Falcons get.
Yeah, I was also thinking Denver.
Yeah,
Their
I
quarterback,
can see that.
their
Yeah.
quarterback situation's kind of like in flux right now. So watch out for because Minshew could be a starter. I mean, he started a lot for the Colts last year, and he's not bad. He's not great. He's kind of that quarterback that you can maybe play for a couple of games and kind of trust. But it's like you just can't trust him for a full-on season. That's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
the quarterback he is.
That just
So
screams Denver Broncos.
it could, that flow over with that team. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think he's going to go back to Indy
Me
at
too.
the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's going to be a free agent. Now, with him, James, something screams, oh man, Tampa Bay. I think that he could be a really good third option in that offense. They've kind of struggled. I know that they had Russell Gage in the past there. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy. They sold Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin. You put Tyler Boyd in that offense. Kate Otton's obviously his kind of resurgent. That tight end's been really good. They got a running back over there, and watch out for the Bucks. Watch out for them specifically. Like they were just in the NFC division game last year. I think Boyd would be great at Tampa Bay.
Whew. Okay. Now, I just said Odell would go to the Jets.
Yep.
But if he doesn't, I'm going to say Tyler Boyd ends up with the Jets.
Okay.
Maybe it's that presence, that veteran presence they might need. And it just depends on how much he'll garner for his money, though. Look out for the Saints as well, because they just got Michael Thomas. But I'm gonna go Jets.
Okay. Darnell Mooney. You see, there's a lot of other guys, James, we didn't talk about last show. Darnell Mooney, to me, James, screams. And this is like screams out. Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's essentially been kind of a link there. I still think he has a lot of potential. I don't know if he could be a true number one guy there, but he could be. He's a young overall receiver, and I think it'd be great with Kansas City. I mean, I hope he doesn't because, of course, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, but something to me just screams Kansas City for Darnell Mooney. How about you?
I kind of agree with you on that, just because, like you mentioned, he doesn't have to be that guy. He could just fit in well. And this is almost what I was thinking about DeAndre Hopkins last year, how I wanted him to go to the Chiefs and get a ring and then get paid this offseason. Yeah. And he could have done that. Instead, he goes to Tennessee. I'm hoping Moody doesn't do that move where he just ends up going, with Washington or whoever else has money left over. I hope he makes that move to Kansas City just for his career. I'm going to go Kansas City just like you.
All right, let's just put out the last couple because obviously I want to move on to baseball. But DeAndre Swift, Trent Brown, Josh Uche, Curtis Samuel. Let's just kind of rapid fire these ones. So for me, DeAndre Swift, I have him going back to the Eagles. I think it's for a 1 to 2 year type deal. Trent Brown, I think that he goes to probably the Giants, because the Giants need a lot of help. The Josh Uche, to me, Detroit, he could reunite with Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan boys. And then Curtis Samuel, to me, I have him going the Jets. I think that he could be a good second option with a young receiver in Garrett Wilson.
All right. If the Texans don't get Barkley, they might go get DeAndre Swift. I'll say that. I agree with you about Trent Brown going to the Giants and just alienating everyone there. I could definitely see that happening. Josh Uche, this is one guy. Where was he last year? Josh Uche?
He was still with the Patriots, but there was a lot of buzz that he was going to get traded last year during the deadline, and they didn't trade him. But there was, I think, a reported close deal of him going to Seattle. That never happened. And obviously now I think that they might have interest, but I don't think that they're going to move on. I think they're going to move on from him. He's younger, and I think that a team could give him a decent package. We could probably get a third back or something like that. So yeah, I think Detroit would just be a fun fit for him. Go reunite with his boy in the past, Aiden Hutchinson, and create some havoc over there.
I'm gonna say Giants for Uche.
Okay.
I like that trade, and then something to anchor that defense, help him out a little more. I think that would be really good. And then for Curtis Samuel, man, there's a lot of players or a lot of teams that can get him. I'm looking at Steelers because they just got rid of a receiver. Patriots, if they don't end up with any of those other receivers in free agency.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
I want to say the Browns because they just got a receiver, so they're out of it. So it's between the Steelers and Patriots for me for Curtis Samuel. And I'll just say, because there's a spot available, I'm going to say Steelers.
All right. Well, now that concludes the NFL segment. That was a long segment, but like I said, it's a lot of the talk this week. So we'll, of course, have more throughout the week. Of course, James, you and Isaiah, of course, we'll have more tomorrow. Of course, today now, in terms of watch party, we'll also have a show, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday to kind of recap all this fun stuff. So make sure, guys, to tune in for that stuff specifically. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a ton of action. And, obviously make sure to tune in all the fun stuff. It's going to be absolutely electric. But now, of course, we got to move on. We're going to talk some baseball, and obviously the Monty and Snell latest. It's now March 11th, James, and they have still not been signed. Time is ticking. I think how many days now are until opening day?
For the Padres and Dodgers, it's March 21st. Everybody else, it's March 29th. Or 28th, excuse me. March 28th.
20th, yeah. The 29th is my sister's birthday. So I do know that's obviously. And Easter is also that Sunday, which Easter kind of feels like it's early this year. But
it is.
That's that. So, yeah, opening day, obviously, is in a couple weeks. It should be really exciting. Spring training, of course. This is kind of the point in time in spring training, James. It's like, spring training, like the start, it's like, wow, we got baseball back. It's great. And like, I hate to be a person that complains in terms of like how boring and stuff it is, because like I love to just watch baseball in general. But now it's just like we're at like a couple weeks before opening day. It's like, all right, come on, let's go. Kind of ready for the real action to begin. But we are kind of waiting for a specific before opening day is the latest on Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell. And obviously they still not been signed yet. Of course, Scott Boras has been absolutely hard blowing them look crazy. But we kind of hit some like little snippets here and there. Blake Snell, did you see the eyeball emoji story today?
Was there a cheeseburger or hamburger as well on the story, or am I tripping?
Oh no, it's they got people on Twitter and X are kind of poking some fun at the IG stories of like their team specifically, like tagging them and stuff like that. The cheeseburger thing was just from some person specifically, but there's nothing about that. Yeah, but
I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Yeah, okay. So Blake Snell, of course, is one of the top guys on the market. And James, you're going to like this specifically. I don't know how you're going to feel, but apparently, Buster Olney, of course, is very tied into baseball, one of the best reporters in the past. He had a podcast a couple days ago, and he said that Blake Snell's preference right now is the Angels.
Oh God.
So and this is why specifically, I think right now it's down to two teams. I don't think the Giants are in it anymore. I think it's the Yankees, it's the Angels. And I don't think the Yankees really want to pay him right now. And I've thought to myself, James, for a long time that, of course, you guys need some frontline pitching, kind of like us right now, so we're kind of in the same boat. But he's from the West Coast. I don't know about the contract. I'd be very interested to see it. Now, John Heyman, of course, who's been very up and down about some reports, but he said that Blake Snell might be open to a short-term deal. Now, if that's a short-term deal for a team like the Angels, I'd take it, especially if there's some opt-outs specifically. If he's maybe trying to prove his worth after an NL Cy Young type season, but he's had inconsistencies before then I would take a flyer on it, kind of see how it happens. Now, I will say this is kind of where I stand back a little bit. if he has not been signed yet, who knows specifically in terms of if he does sign with the team, kind of like Jordan Montgomery, how long is it going to take for him to get back into game action? You're not essentially, there's so much specifically off the field where you can just be like, all right, be out in the, practice field and just throwing the ball around. Yeah, sure, that's great. But you got to pitch against live pitching. That's one thing about spring training that I think is really key is for guys to ramp up their time because, a lot of the times now we're kind of in spring training games where we're seeing guys specifically play having at least 3 to 4 at-bats, not like 1 to 2 at-bats. It's kind of more of regular season time. I mean, I was watching the Yankees-Braves game today, and there's Yankee fans online saying, why is Aaron Judge out after the second at-bat? There's everybody else that's essentially getting 3 or 4 at-bats. Well, he essentially said after the game that it's precautionary. He just wanted 2 at-bats. Now, the reason why I'm obviously kind of talking about that stuff is in terms of for Snell is if he goes to the Angels, I think it'd be a great fit. Obviously, he's from the West Coast. Obviously, the money's there. It just feels like an Angels side move. And obviously, before I go to you in terms of how you would feel about that, is I don't just know in terms of his ramp up. I know with the Padres, their fans specifically, I think I was watching a podcast with them. He said there was one podcast, Padres show that I watched this morning. He said that Blake Snell doesn't really get into becoming Blake Snell until like the summer. And obviously that's like June, July-ish. So for like a team like the Angels, like specifically in terms of where they're going to be standing, it's like, is it worth to get a guy for, it's like a rental for a couple of years in terms of a guy that you just kind of have a lot of up and downs things about. So what do you think? Do you think Blake Snell to the Angels would be great for you, or do you just are very indifferent about it?
I've never wanted him from the start. So when I heard this news ramp up, I'm like, oh, crap. I don't want him around. And then I didn't believe it either because, all offseason long, the Angels went out, and went to the Goodwill store to try to find their relievers and, infielders and outfielders or whatever. They didn't really go out and sign anyone. That was, big time, big money time. Seeing that the price is down on Snell, and the opt-outs, I like that part because if the Angels did to get him, I don't want him
to do an opt-outs. Yep.
I don't want him there long term. I don't even want to see him in the Angel uniform. That's how bad I don't want to see him. But then once I heard the Giants were out of it and it was only Angels and Yankees, I'm thinking to myself, well, he's soft enough where he doesn't want to go to the East Coast. So the Yankees is not a destination for him.
Yep.
He wants to stay West Coast. He's been waiting it out too long to the point where he's just stuck, and then the Angels are stuck. And I think I mentioned this to Isaiah or someone else, maybe it was you as well, that this would be a mistake by the Angels because I think they just put themselves in the running, but I don't think they actually wanted to go through with this. And now they're kind of stuck with this rumor now because that's the only team on the West Coast interested in him, and the pressure's on someone to sign him. Like you mentioned, it's later. Isn't it funny that Russell Wilson gets signed before Montgomery and Snell today?
Right.
Tonight.
Yeah.
So I guess again this rotation, though, it already has so many lefties in it, and that was a problem last year. Now you're throwing another one in there who loves to walk the bases loaded and gives up, and somehow gets out of it. But again, the defense isn't the same as the Padres' defense of last year. The Padres' defense has all those Gold Glovers. The Angels, I think they only have maybe 1 or 2, Rendon and Trout. That's pretty much it. You're not going to get that Gold Glove defense. His ERA will. I know he was the leader in ERA last year in the NL, but that won't happen in the AL if he goes to any of these AL teams. So I would hate it if he becomes an Angel, but I think that's the only option for him.
Welcome back, Isaiah. It's great to have you back on, my friend. Isaiah, you missed essentially like the second half of the NFL stuff, but Uh, Me and James had some fun with it. It's all right. Like you said, you and James are going to get the chance to do the watch party tomorrow. And obviously, we'll kind of talk more about it in a couple days too. But for baseball, Isaiah, me and James talked about the latest on the Snell and Monty front. And James was joking up to me. He's just like, Russell Wilson has signed for both these guys. And MLB free agency starting in December. And so now, obviously, Isaiah, of course, I talked to James about this, that Monty and Snell have not been signed yet, but there has been snippets in terms of where trucks might be going. I want to ask you, Isaiah, did you see the eyeball emoji IG story today from Snell?
No, I didn't. What happened?
So he put an Instagram story out today, this morning, that had eyeball emojis. And everybody was just on Twitter, just like, oh my God, like, is time going to happen? But it's either like he's, of course, trolling with us in terms of like his gaming, or is something happening? And I'm thinking it's something's happening, because you just don't put that out. And the reason why I'm saying something's happening, but coming up, is I told James this specifically. Buster Olney, of course, Buster Olney, of course, is very tight in baseball and stuff like that. He said that a couple days ago on a podcast that Blake Snell's preference right now is the Angels. And I was right now, Isaiah, the Yankees, I think, would be the other team interested, but there's been no traction about that. He wants to probably stay West Coast. He wants to probably get a payday, and he knows for a fact that he could be number one there. So I don't know in terms of what to think of that eyeball tweet or the story, but there has to be something there, because it's now March 11th, 12th, or whatever. And if only for the most part, it's pretty tight end. And if he thinks that there's preference kind of there, as you always say, Isaiah, when there is smoke, there is
Fire.
Thank you. So that's kind of the latest in terms of what I'm thinking there. So what's your overall thoughts potentially of Snell becoming an Angel?
Well, first of all, I heard James mutter or in disgust.
He already let it out. So
yes, he did.
I will tell about what happens. But yeah, that's the latest I've been seeing. So
what's interesting is that my original trip to Arizona, I was gonna go for spring training this week, but it got pushed back to next week. So I'm gonna be going down to Angels spring training to watch the Angels and the Giants to see what's going on. Maybe get some autographs. But I mean, it's very interesting to see, because I think that, look, Monty and Snell, they have to sign this week, because if they don't sign by this week, there's no chance for pitching to start the season, because you need time to ramp up. Like, you can't just have your first start or your first game be the third game of the regular season or the first game of the season. Like, you just can't have that. So they have to sign by this week if they're both going to pitch to start the season. And so I think that, like you mentioned, Ben, I think there's something to those eyeball emojis, because they have to sign by this week. If they don't sign by the end of this week, they are not pitching to start the regular season, because the season's in about a couple of weeks from this upcoming Thursday. So they have to sign. And I think that, I think the Blake Snell, the Angels thing, it makes sense, because, like you mentioned, West Coast, plus the Angels need an ace. After Ohtani departed, like, the Angels have been linked to Blake Snell forever. So that does make a lot of sense. My thing is, I would not rule out both the Giants and the Texas Rangers, because the Giants, they would be the dumbest franchise of all time, especially with where they are right now. Given the fact that they got Chapman, they got Soler, they got all those guys. You don't get Chapman or Soler if you don't plan on going and trying to make a playoff spot. And right now, their rotation is in shambles. Like, it's Logan Webb, and then it's a bunch of rookies. So they have to get another starter. They really do. And they have like a couple of guys that it's already getting hurt. I know Tristan Beck's out for half the year because of an elbow issue. Keaton Wynn, one of their young rookie starters, he's going to be out to start the season. So they need another starter. Like, if they don't get Blake Snell, at least go get Mike Lorenzen or someone like that. They have to get another veteran starter. It's very pivotal for them. They cannot roll into the regular season with that rotation that they have right now. And I think for the Rangers, it's the same thing. Like, Texas is not in it's not dire like San Francisco is. But when you look at the Rangers rotation, you cannot compete with the Houston Astros with that rotation right now because it's Nathan Eovaldi, John Gray, Dane Dunning,
Dane Dunning.
Andrew Heaney, and then who's the fifth starter? I don't really know. So you got to get another proven guy in there if you really want to compete with the Houston Astros, especially with Max Scherzer, Jacob DeGrom. Like you can't count on those guys. Even when they come back, you can't count on them to be their usual like ace selves. It would be great if those guys reverted back to being aces, but you just can't count on them. And plus, like if you got Blake Snell, imagine a rotation with Scherzer, with DeGrom, with Eovaldi, Snell, John Gray, and then you could have Heaney and the other guys be like your bullpen, or if let's say DeGrom struggles with command, or you're worried that he's going to get hurt again, just move him to the bullpen. Or if Scherzer struggles, move him to the bullpen and have him give you a couple of innings and be that bridge guy. So there's a lot of very interesting variables at play for the Rangers. That's why I think they need to get at least one of the Montes or Snells. But I think that we are close to getting a resolution just because we have to, since the regular season is about to start in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and obviously, you're having them in terms of what you think of them signing this week. Well, they're going to be already delayed as it is because, as I told James, the ramp up period, of course, with these guys, it's going to take a long time. And I told James as well too that Snell specifically does not get effective until like the summer. If you kind of look at his overall stats in the past, that's kind of when he gets really, really good. So it's like, unless he's been training in terms of the off season, I've been seeing a lot of him just gaming on his stories and stuff on Instagram. Like, I bet he's probably training, but it's just like you're a little maybe paying a little bit of a price though, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I will tell about that. But I do think specifically, watch out specifically for that Angel stuff, and we'll talk more about that later on during the week. Now with Monty, I'll go to first with you, Isaiah, because Chris Young had some comments that the Rangers and Jordan Montgomery are unlikely to have a potential negotiation moving forward. It sounds like right now that it is really the Red Sox and maybe the Phillies, and that's pretty much it. But the reason why Monty has not been signed yet, guys, is the asking price for Montgomery is 7 years. And it's like he is 31 years old. As much as I want him right now, if you're asking for 7 years, absolutely not. No matter who you are. I mean, that's absolutely outrageous. Now, I'll go to you first, Isaiah, in terms of how you feel about this, in terms of how you think that Chris John and company have, talked about Montgomery in the past. But right now, it sounds like the dream of him going back to Texas is over. So, what do you think about that?
If I'm the Rangers, if he's asking for 7 years, I'm pivoting to Blake Snell because Blake Snell is younger. He just won the Cy Young. He's more effective than Montgomery. He's more lethal than Jordan Montgomery is. And if you plug Blake Snell into that rotation, it gives you an instant ace to go along with Nathan Eovaldi and Max Scherzer and Jacob DeGrom whenever those two guys do in fact come back. So I think that for what Chris Young said, I think, you know what? I think it's definitely makes a lot of sense because I wouldn't be giving Jordan Montgomery a 7-year deal. I think that's absolutely ludicrous. Blake Snell wants reportedly a 9-year, 200-something million. That's what he was asking for at the beginning of the offseason.
No, the article I saw from Heyman a couple days ago is he's willing now to take a short-term deal. So it's more of Monty's asking for the longer one. Snell's asking for more of the short if he can get it.
Yeah, so if Snell's asking for a short-term deal, if I'm Texas, I'm like, hell yeah, because you have an opportunity right now to be the next Kansas City Chiefs and just and have like a dynastic run in baseball. Like we've never seen it before. Like the Rangers have all these young guys. They have all these guys that are signed up long term that are young. I mean, this is their prime right now. The Astros are going down. Verlander's hurt already to start the season. They have a lot of question marks in that rotation. The Yankees, we don't know what they're going to do in their rotation outside of Garrett Cole. And then you have all these other teams like the AL Central. Does anybody really think any team in the AL Central is going to compete for a World Series this year? I mean, Detroit could win that Central. The Twins could win it, but they're inconsistent. The Guardians could win it, but they have a new manager. So I really think that the AL really comes down to the Astros, the Rangers, the Yankees, and I'm trying to think of other teams, but I think those are the top three right now in the American
Yeah.
League. And Texas, I feel like they are right now ahead of those teams because the Astros are dealing with injuries. Michael Brantley just retired. We don't know what they're going to do in left field. They haven't even answered that question yet. And then the Yankees, yes, they got Juan Soto, but the rotation outside of Garrett Cole, there's a lot of question marks. So I think Texas, they really, really need to strike right now while the iron is hot because they just won the World Series. If you get Blake Snell, you answer what is your only question, and that is your rotation. You fortify that rotation. Your lineup is already deadly. Like I think if they sign a Blake Snell, I think the Rangers are repeating in the American League and going back to the World Series, and we're gonna have a Corey Seager versus a former team World Series, but that's why I just don't understand why Texas, like I get the whole thing with the TV deal, but if Blake Snell's looking for a short-term deal, like 1 year, $30 million, do it because it's a steal. Like you get him for 1 year, go all in, and then you don't even need him after this year because Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom will both be healthy again.
So before we get to James and Terrence Montgomery, somebody told me on Twitter the other day about when I reposted about the Montgomery asking price of 7 years. When the Red Sox got JD Martinez, he apparently asked for 7 years under Boris's camp. But in the next couple of days after that, the price tag went down to about 4 to 5 years with opt-outs and high AV. That's exactly what I want the Red Sox to do with Jordan Montgomery. If they can do that and make that happen, this is a Yankees and Carlos Rodon situation all over again, where you essentially have this guy falling into your lap, and it's all just about paying the guy. And Alex Cora said in terms of opening day, he's thinking potentially Brian Bay or Nick Pivetta. Speaking of talk about Brian Bay in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, Jordan Montgomery still, if you give him a 4 to 5 years high AV with some opt-outs, I'm taking it. But as of right now, specifically, this is why he's not been signed yet, guys. Nobody's taking a guy at 31 years old for 7 years. It's just not happening. So I think during the week, we'll probably have to see in terms of this Isaac price goes down. James, now I'll take it to you.
All right, so about Montgomery, man, it just depends on the Red Sox, honestly, because they just lost Lucas Giolito. So it's just them just
unfortunate
sitting, just not sitting out, but for them just to ask, just say finally, okay, what do you want? And then agree on the years. But I agree that 7 is just way too much for someone who's 31 years old and not as proven as others who have gotten, those years on the deal before. So I think it just all depends on are the Red Sox hungry enough to do it? That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I don't see him going anywhere else. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think he was
maybe
gonna...
the Cubs.
I saw that, and I thought to myself, well,
yeah,
they haven't been really spending as much. They tried Stroman last year. He's gone.
They got Imanaga, but
they've gone international. Yeah, they've gone international, but they have homegrown talent. Yeah. So I don't know if they'll do it. I just don't see it, and that came out of nowhere. But all this time, when I heard, again, it goes back to family with me. All this time I heard, the wife is working in Boston. He's working out in Boston. Yeah. It just fits there. So all this time, it's like, okay, it's going to happen. It just depends what side flinches first. Either Boris or the Red Sox. And again, like you guys are mentioning, it's getting late. But the thing is, it's a long-ass season, okay? So I don't think these pitchers mind getting in there, or else they would have, told Boris, hey, get me wherever, because I want to get in there, just like Chris Bryant a couple years ago with Colorado. And then, of course, he mentioned, hey, I think that was a mistake in a way. But it's going to come down to whoever blinks first and then whoever will give in. And that's pretty much it. But I always thought Montgomery, it just made sense with him going to Boston. And I think eventually it's going to happen, but it's just, again, it's whoever blinks first. And then are the Red Sox desperate enough now with the injuries they have to make that move, but to say, hey, let's get some opt-outs in here at least. Not 7 straight years. So, again, I think he's going to be eventually with the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, with him being at 31 years old, him pitching all the way into the 40s definitely would concern me, his durability and stuff like that. But the thing about these two guys, James, Snell and Monty, I know Isaiah mentioned Texas. These two guys want to be a number one on a lot of teams. If you look at Snell, he'd be instantly the number one with the Angels. If you look at Monty, he'd instantly be the number one. No offense to Brian Bayo, but if he came to the Red Sox, he'd probably be instantly their number one, with Brian Bayo being their number two. They want to be paid like that specifically. So you look at a lot of these teams specifically that pretty much already have their aces. It's like, well, the Cubs, they got Justin Steele. The Phillies, they got Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. It's like you kind of look at in terms of the dominoes with a lot of these teams. It's like, well, Snell, the Angels, they need that number one ace. Of course, the Red Sox, but the Red Sox obviously have not been tied to Big Snell by any means this offseason. The only other situation of the Red Sox that I've been hearing is they might be going after either Lorenzen or Clevenger, and I'd be open to it to take Garrett Whitlock out of the rotation because he is not a rotation guy. He pitched again today. He wasn't effective at getting the starting spot. This, of course, is why you need to get a Jordan Montgomery type. So that's the latest there, guys. Now, obviously, we could talk about the Giolito and the Brian Bayo stuff specifically, but I do want to get to our team reports before we kind of get to the end of our program for tonight. I did obviously want to have this report that I read today about the stadium rankings. I don't know if you guys saw this. It was pretty cool. But let's do our team report, shall we? So for the Red Sox specifically, it's just kind of the same old, same old. They did go to the Dominican Republic for a couple days for an exhibition, which are pretty cool. Kind of to take away kind of that spring training feel and play there. Actually, I had a buddy of mine that went to the game today. He's a Red Sox fan. He went down to the Dominican for some vacation, then he went to the game. He told me that was a lot of fun. And obviously, a lot of the Red Sox are Dominican. Obviously, Brian Bayo, who got an extension, he got his press conference down there. Rafael Devers, obviously. So it's pretty cool. And obviously, they're going to go back to JetBlue Park in Fort Myers, continue their stuff over there. And really, it's just them kind of getting the work in. The pitching's actually been pretty solid so far. I can't have any complaints. Obviously, knock on wood for that for the regular season. But yeah. How about you, James, in terms of your team report? James, we got you?
James, I think you're muted.
There we go. All right, so the Angels 11-6. They've been winning more games as of late. Nolan Shawnuel has been really impressive. Not really with the power. I mean, I kept mentioning he bulked up a little bit, but he's still hitting the gaps really well, and I'd rather have that for a young, speedy team like the Angels are going to be. So that feels really good to have him not change his mindset and just go for the fences. I hate that. I hate that so much. Zach Neto has also been really good. He's been hitting well. Let's see. Sano is an interesting story, because he's not, of course, the average hitter. He's not going for that, but he's got the power down. But I don't know if he's going to make the roster. I think that all depends on the availability of Rendon, which we all know isn't there.
Yes, as I send the private chat.
He already has an injury. I forgot what it was, but he hasn't been back ever since, and it's not really a worrisome thing until the regular season. But there's always something else that happens that'll take him out by June. Some interesting guys, trying to make the roster. Willie Calhoun Him as an outfielder, been bouncing around. Maybe he'll make the ball club if another outfielder doesn't really show up. Hunter Dozier was sent down already, but hopefully he'll be back with the club if there's an injury.
Sure.
He did. Yeah. I know Rengifo got hurt, our second baseman, but then that's why Dozier was sent down because Rengifo's back. So again, it's just a bunch of young players you're hoping that get going. And Jake Marinzik, this is funny because he has 9 hits. He's tied with 9 with the other 2 that I mentioned. He shaved off his hair, so he looks very different. But he's actually hitting very well here. It's kind of interesting because the Angels already have a crowded outfield. So I don't know if he ends up at AAA Salt Lake City or someone takes him. Then for the pitching, Tyler Anderson, he's been better. He's not trying to throw his fastball, which gets killed. He's using his changeup more.
Yep.
And off-speed stuff, so that's been good. Zach Plesac was sent down, to the camp or whatever, and I was kind of shocked by that because he had 2 wins, but maybe the start before he kind of had some issues, and he said maybe I got to go get that worked. And if you're not going to be one of the starters and you don't want to do long relief, maybe that's somewhere you go to get some help. Other from that, there's a lot of relievers that have high ERAs. There's some that you want to look at to keep around. Some young guys that are really good. It's all about progress and who can make that roster. And for Washington, I just love that he's just trying to work with the youth and keep them going. And then that Snell thing just keeps coming up, and I don't know if he'll do well with the Angels. I just never saw that happening, honestly. So we'll see what happens. But that's pretty much the Angel stuff.
Yeah, just bundle up for more of the Snells the Angels smoked this week, James. So buckle up. We'll see what happens, though. Isaiah, I'll take it to you.
Well, this might be the very first time that I've been on a show where James hasn't given a depressing Angels report. Like, it was pretty upbeat, right? Like, it was pretty...
Just wait till the season starts, though. That's when it all goes down.
No, that's true. He's focusing
we'll take small victories like my Red Sox. My Red Sox are pretty positive today, too. So, I'll take it.
James is focusing his negative energy on the Raiders because if they make the moves that he doesn't want, then we'll get some rants over here. But maybe the Clippers too. But in terms of the A's, I mean, I haven't really been following the A's spring training just because I really don't. I mean, I don't even know half the team on this in spring training. I know. Zach Gelof's been amazing in spring training. I think he leads he's leading the A's in hits in spring training, which is great to see because normally when a rookie breaks out in his first year, you're like, okay, is he for real or was that just a fluke because teams don't have film on him and they don't know how to attack him. But it looks like he's a guy that we can build around moving forward. And I really like his swing. He's got a smooth swing and he takes a lot of pitches, which is great to see. And I think a couple other guys that have been really doing well is surprisingly former Yankee Miguel Andujar has actually been doing pretty solid. He is. He's killing it.
Speaking of Andujar, funny enough, because obviously people love to overreact spring training. Like they show like a visual of Miguel Andujar spring training stats with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is not at a home run at all spring training, and Andujar is at like 4.
Yeah,
so funny.
Yeah, Miguel Andujar, I think he might have locked up a spot on the team already because he's been really good in spring training. In terms of the relievers, the A's have one of the worst ERAs in terms of bullpen in spring training. So, I mean, listen, last year we ran through our closer before the season was Juris Familia. That was our closer, and he had 7 save opportunities, and I think James and Ben, you guys remember this. He blew 6 saves in 7 chances. to start the year. He was not good at all. And you know what's funny is I think all three of us have had Familia on our teams at one point.
Sox on him for a little bit. Very short lived, but
and but like our bullpen was really bad last year, and unfortunately this year it might be even worse because our closer, fellas, I just found this out, is Trevor Gott. And Trevor Gott has
oh my god.
Trevor Gott legitimately has been nothing more than a long relief or middle reliever his entire career, and now we're putting a guy who's a middle reliever to be our closer. So that's definitely not going to end well. We have a guy named Danny Jimenez who every time he throws his signature curveball, if he doesn't strike you out with the curveball, you probably are hitting it for a home run because he either hangs the curveball or he buries that thing where he strikes you out. So he's definitely a very high risk, high reward type pitcher. And then the starting staff is not even that good at all because I heard Ross Stripling has been the only good pitcher. JP Sears has been solid, but one of our big acquisitions, Alex Wood, he's been roughed up so hard in spring training. So, I mean, as an A's fan, it's probably going to be ugly this year. I think the offense can carry us, but the pitching, I mean, our pitching staff, Ben and James, might be like a AAA rotation and bullpen because that's how bad it's going to be in Oakland. In terms of the Phillies, the offense is doing well, and Mundo Sosa hit a game-tying grand slam the other day, which was nice to see. But in terms of how everybody's doing, I mean the regulars are killing the ball down there in Florida. The bullpen, I think they're trying to figure out the roles right now because the Phillies don't have like a designated closer. They might go closer by committee, but I personally don't want them to just because of the fact that these closer by committees just never ever work out.
I was telling me about it. Red Sox have had that so many years and it's not worked. It's been a disaster.
Exactly. So that's why I don't want that closer by committee garbage. I want the Phillies to just find someone and just roll with him until he struggles. So that's, I think, for me, the biggest question about the Phillies is the bullpen and the roles in that bullpen. Who's going to be the closer? Who's going to be the setup man? And how are they going to do? Because I feel like all the guys last year that were really good in the bullpen, they all regressed and went back to their regular selves. And I've had to deal with such bad bullpen as a Phillies fan like the last out of the last 4 years. So hopefully it's better this year.
All right. Now let's quickly, before we could probably conclude for tonight specifically, guys, let's talk about the report on the stadiums. Now, speaking of stadiums, I wanted to ask you, Isaiah, is there any update on the A's in terms of their stadium pursuit, in terms of if they want to stay, for the long term there, or you kind of haven't really heard much there?
No, so they actually released they finally released their ballpark rendering after they fired the original company that made their ballpark design because they didn't think it looked good. And then we've been waiting for this for like the last 3 to 4 months, and they finally came out with it. Yeah,
right now, that's sick.
If you guys have a chance, go ahead and check it out. It looks like the Sydney Opera House, to be honest, in Australia, next to the casinos. But here's the caveat about this whole thing, guys. And James, you probably will be sick to your stomach about this, YouTube, Ben. So I looked at the reports from this stadium and the design of it. The A's, fellas, get this. They're not going to have, in this stadium, they're not going to have a retractable roof in this stadium. There's no retractable roof. What they're going to do is temperature-controlled seats. Temperature-controlled seats. So,
God.
like let's say yeah, they're doing temperature-controlled seats. So, let's say it's like some high-tech stuff, but that they're investing in because they're too cheap to build a regular retractable roof. So they're gonna have seats where, let's say on a cold day, you can press a button and turn it to where it heats it, it heats the seats up. And then on a hot day, you can turn it where it makes the seats cold. But here's the problem. I understand you. Like, let's say on a hot day, like 120 degrees. Do I really want to be sitting on a cold chair with myself sweating like crazy? It doesn't matter what my back temperature is. That's why, like, it just
Yeah.
makes no freaking sense. You're really gonna build a retractable or a stadium in Vegas where it gets up to like 120 degrees with no freaking retractable roof. That is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's just awful. It's like Minnesota where it snows. It's like the Vikings
Mhm.
building their stadium without a retractable roof and then blaming the weather for the game. So I think that like I think I told someone this after I saw the design. I just don't think it's gonna work out because people in Vegas, number one, they're not gonna go to the games because they're not who's gonna want to suffer and sit in 120-degree heat. And secondly, John Fisher, the owner, he is the real life person of Dumb and Dumber because this guy, for some reason, every time he does something, a project, whatever, he will always manage to screw it up. So I have a feeling he's going to screw it up somehow, some way. He's going to not make the money work, or they're going to scrap the design. They've been talking forever about a ballpark. They've been talking about Vegas, or they first started with Fremont, California, then San Jose, then Santa Clara, then Salt Lake City, Portland. Like they've come up with so many of these designs that I'm just like, hey, until you build it, then I will actually believe it. But until then, nah, I can't believe that whatsoever.
I'm about to try to get let me say for the audience specifically the picture of it. If you guys get the chance to get a picture of it for the stream, that'd be great because I'm trying to. But yeah, I saw it specifically, Isaiah, and it looks kind of interesting. They're planning right now a 33,000 capacity ballpark on the Las Vegas Strip. That apparently has like center field views of the New York, and MGM Casino Studios. So we'll have to see about that. But speaking of ballparks, I found a really cool article to kind of conclude the night. Something really fascinating. That we're gonna do from this USA Today article on ballparks. They ranked from number 30th to number 1 in terms of the best to the worst. Now, obviously, James, if you want, if I ask you specifically, what do you think is number 30th from this list?
The Oakland Coliseum.
Yes, it's number 30th. Number 29 is Tropicana Field.
Yeah,
So
I can see that.
that's not too surprising. Isaiah, are you surprised about those?
You guys got me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So no, I'm not really surprised. You know what? I would put. I've never been to Tropicana Field, but just from watching it on TV, it does not look comfortable, especially for a stadium in
I've been.
Florida. Like
Yeah.
I went to Marlins Park and I was blown away by how nice that stadium looked. And Tropicana Field just looked like the Rays just hired a designer and we're like, okay, come up with like the easiest stadium ever and then we'll build it. Like it doesn't represent Florida with Florida's glitz and glamour. So I would, for me, because I've been to the Coliseum so many times, I've worked there a bunch. I would put the Coliseum ahead of the Rays just because at least with the
No.
Coliseum, like there's a lot of good
Oh,
history there and it's a very easily accessible ballpark.
I've been to Tropicana Field, guys, once, and I obviously have family down in like the St. Pete area, and I literally only went because I got a second-degree sunburn, and I had to do something inside, and the Rays were playing like the day after, so I went. Um, it's not baseball. It's just not baseball whatsoever.
The thing I hate about that place is the catwalks. I really hate that. I
Yeah.
think that's so. When they built that place, it was supposed to be for baseball right away, but they didn't really look into it. For all the catwalks, for all the seats that are tarped off upstairs and downstairs down the line. It just looks really bad. Whenever you have tarps in the stadium, it's just so bad.
All right, let's do our top 10, the top 10 that they had to number 1. All right, so this guy's going to be a lot of fun. What do you guys think number 10 is going to be?
Well, I have the list, so I won't say anything.
Oh, okay. So Isaiah, what do you think number 10 is going to be?
Number 10. Ooh, I'm gonna go with Coors Field.
Let's see if
Close.
Coors Field's in the top. Let's see if Coors Field's in the top 10. It is in the top 10. It is number 8.
Oh, okay, close.
So, well, obviously, so number 10 is Target Field in Minneapolis. Really nice place. I have been to that ballpark before. And it opened up in 2010 and it has 38,544 capacity. So really good choice there. Number 9, Isaiah, you're gonna like this one. You have been to this one before.
Marlins Park or Lone Depot Park?
It's going to be T-Mobile Park in Seattle, home of the Seattle Mariners. They're number 9. I've wanted to go there so badly. Heard great things about it. Kind of an underrated park. James, I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about for that.
No, I'll go with each one. Target Field. What's great is that in right field they kept the wall high like it was at the Metrodome, so that's pretty cool. And then I still call Seattle's Safeco Field. I'll never call T-Mobile. I just don't like it. I like the fact that they have a roof for the for the rain there, and it hasn't aged all that bad. So it's still great to see it there in Seattle.
All right, so number 8 we had Coors Field. Number 7, kind of an older park specifically. It holds 56,000. That is Dodger Stadium. Now, yeah, it's a classic. I've wanted to go there before. Of course, Loro's told me all about it. Of course, with him being a Dodger fan, but yeah, that's been kind of obviously one that's going to get a ton of hype this year. They got a guy named Shohei Ohtani. I don't know if you guys know about him or not, but he's probably the best player in baseball. So, yeah, of course, Dodger Stadium is going to get a lot of hype for the next several years. That's number 7. Number 6 is Petco Park. Have you guys ever been to Petco? I think,
yes.
James, you said you've been to Petco. Great
and Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I need to go to Dodger Stadium at some point. Petco Park is really nice. I took a trip down with my family to San Diego. I saw the Padres play the Reds with the Aroldis Chapman being on the Reds. Really cool place, and definitely would go back if I got the chance to. Number 5 is Fenway Park, my Red Sox. Obviously, people want Fenway to kind of change it up a little bit, but listen, it's in Boston. The I think friendly conference is Wrigley, but it's just the history. I don't know specifically how much fans are going to be touring it this year, but the way the teams have been constructed. But tourists come all the way from all over to check it out. It's home to me specifically. It opened up in 1912, guys. So, I mean, it's the oldest park, I believe, in all MLB parks. So Fenway's number 5. Number 4 is a ballpark on my bucket list for so long, and that is Camden Yards in Baltimore. Baltimore obviously has a really good team for the next couple years, but their core, and yeah, just really want to check it out. Of course, you have the Inner Harbor over there. So that's number 4. Number 3 is Wrigley Field in Chicago. I really love Wrigley. I went there when I was in Chicago a couple years ago. My dad's buddy from college had a wedding, and I was just kind of left behind for the trip. I went with my family, and I went to a Cubs game. They played the Giants, and it was when Barry Bonds was on his homer streak, like for the record or whatever, for the big record that he had. I saw 2 home runs for Barry Bonds in that game against the Cubs. The Cubs won that game, but it was a really cool moment there when I went. Number 2 is Oracle Park in San Francisco. Now, this is one that I've heard so many great things about.
Yeah.
Right in the water in San Francisco. It just looks like, the views and stuff with there, looks absolutely incredible. So a lot of these you can kind of tell all on the West Coast. Coors Field, T-Mobile Park, Oracle Park, Dodger Stadium. And guys, you guys want to know number 1 is? Of course, James, you have the article. Isaiah, you want to guess number 1?
Oh, yes. I'm going to go with Citizens Bank Park.
No, you're in the right state, though. It is PNC Park.
Oh, okay. Wow.
This place, guys, if you guys have not been to PNC, is phenomenal. It's probably the best backdrop, I think, of any stadium. It overlooks the city. It's right on the Three Rivers. You can walk right over the bridge to the games. The tickets aren't that bad at pricing. I remember when I went to the game for the Pirates, I was coming back from dropping off my brother in Ohio, to college in Ohio, and I told my dad I've always wanted to stop in Pittsburgh, and it was during the summertime because, of course, we dropped my brother off in college, and my dad and I went to a game there, and it was a great experience, great atmosphere. Tickets were really cheap, and a really good place to see a game. So I wanted to kind of put that article really quickly with you guys, kind of finish off the show, kind of something really cool that I saw prepping up for the show tonight. So yeah, I mean, I was going to get into some basketball stuff, but I think I'll probably save some for next show, unless you guys want to have some stuff for the final thoughts. But I think with that being said, guys, I mean that I think we'll conclude for tonight's show. I'll kick it with Kruse. So with that being said, I'll take it to you, James, first. Your final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem.
I still think Petco Park is number one, but I haven't been like to the other places, honestly. Angel Stadium, I think, was what, 24th or 22nd on the list. It should be
Yeah.
more like 26, 25. It's just because of the rocks in beyond the outfield there. Other from that, like the concrete is cracked, the paint it looks like rust. It's just awful. It's an awful place to be, honestly, and it's only going to get worse this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to take a look at Anaheim at some point for a game there, but it sounds like from what I've been hearing, it doesn't sound that enticing. We'll see. I've wanted to take a look at something there. Is that your final thoughts, James?
Yeah. Don't go to Angel Stadium.
Good to know. And obviously still on my bucket list, of course, for a lot of these ballparks. And if that's the case, I will pass on it for sure. All right, Isaiah, go ahead.
Well, James, you should tell Ben to go, because with the money that he'll be spending on tickets, I mean, it'll be less money on Anthony Rendon's contract. Like, the Angels won't have to pay for that. But
yeah, I'm gonna do my best not to go all year long. I'm gonna try not to.
And also, the thing with the Angels is you're probably going to be able to get cheap tickets, to be honest. Because A's tickets, believe it or not, guys, is actually this year for every game besides opening day. And whoever made the ticket pricing for opening day should be fired, because they put the cheapest price for opening day tickets at $40. Like, who's legitimately going to pay $40 to watch A's baseball opening day when this team is not going to be as like any good whatsoever? And then for opening day, it's $40. The rest of the games, fellas, for the rest of the season.
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
$5. $5.
$8 to $10.
All right, that's close.
So, yeah, you see the difference between opening night and the rest of the season. Like if you want to get fans, that's why I think Ben and James, our A's attendance total for opening night legitimately might be 5,000 people. That's how bad it's gonna be.
Well, if the Red Sox play the A's this summer and I have time to make a vacation, maybe I'll come see you, Isaiah, and I'll come see the Red Sox play the A's.
Hey, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
tickets
if I got we got a cheap flight, the cheap tickets, maybe I'll make a weekend out of it if they play on a weekend. But yeah, that's pretty much the reason why I go there.
A's are playing the Red Sox. If I remember correctly, I think we're playing you guys the first week or the second series of the season, because I remember I was looking over the A's schedule and choosing my availability, which games to work and which games to not work, and I think the Red Sox actually popped up, if I'm not mistaken, for one of the first games of the season. So Ben, I'll definitely be seeing your Red Sox, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, April. Wow. Yeah, that's right. Because the Red Sox have a West Coast to start the year. Of course, they do it to us the way this whole entire offseason has been. But they have a West Coast trip at the Mariners, and then they have the A's early on. They play against the A's at Fenway in July. So wow, that's a lot. That's a lot earlier than I thought. But
yeah. But I mean, in terms of final thoughts, though, I got 3 final thoughts that I have to share with you guys. number one final thought I want to get into is, Ben, we were talking about the A's new stadium rendering. Well, I did pull up the picture of it. Here's the first
Oh,
picture. It it looks like the Sydney Opera House in Australia. And then here's the second photo. This is inside the stadium. You guys see, look, there's no retractable roof. They're gonna literally put like a net over the entire where the crowd is, and then they're gonna have like a Sydney Opera House, like not even a roof. That's gonna be like slightly over it. So and then this is the last photo. But look at this. Like look at that heat that's gonna be coming in through center field from that net. I mean, how pathetic is it that you're gonna have that heat in Vegas, 120-degree heat coming in through that center field wall, blasting into the faces of the crowd? Like it
looks like Allegiant Stadium, but like that roof is just not closed.
No, it's not whatsoever. So, like James told me, I don't think it gets built because I just don't think I don't think the city of Vegas would allow a stadium, especially in the heat that it's going to be in, to not have a retractable roof. I just don't think it gets allowed. The second final thought that I do have is the Marlins were actually thinking about putting this amazing sculpture that was used to be in center field back into the ballpark in center field. Right now it's outside their stadium. For me, I'm a total fan of it just because like I think that sculpture represents Miami. And right now the ballpark, like the thing that stood out for me before when Marlins Park first opened was that sculpture. And Ben and James, I don't know if you guys remember, but they had a aquarium out by like the third base field box in the stadium. Yep. So that represents Miami because Miami does things different. They're like very glitzy, they're glamorous, they're very colorful. So having that back into the stadium, I think would really, really benefit the Marlins. And then my last final thought is, how about them Lakers, fellas? How about that win tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves and against the Milwaukee Bucks on Friday? What a great couple of wins that the Lakers had back to back. Definitely, we're chasing Dallas right now, and I think Sacramento, and it looks like Dallas is kind of scuffling a little bit. And you know, the Lakers are, I feel like, peaking right now at the right time. And hey, if the Lakers get into the playoffs with LeBron and AD and against some of these unproven teams like Oklahoma City, Minnesota, I think those teams are in a whole world of trouble. So if the Lakers keep it up, I think they'll be fine. And then for announcements, we are going to be doing the IM6 Football Christmas Festival tomorrow, where we're just going to be watching free agency come in and all the flurry of moves that's going to happen. It's going to start around 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Here on the West Coast. So make sure you guys join us for that. It's going to be a multi-hour special. Can't wait for that. And then I think either next week or the week after, next week, we're going to be doing a network MLB preview special where we're going to give out our predictions and, you know, division picks, wild card picks, award picks, World Series picks, and just preview the whole season in general. So make sure you guys tune in for that because baseball is back and we are going to be here to cover it all.
All right. In terms of my end, you know, like everybody else, looking forward to free agency this week for football, and obviously, guys, my next one we might talk a little March Madness, because obviously, what's March without the madness? So, of course, make sure to kind of watch some of the games from this week. Obviously, the conference play games for this week. There's brackets out for the ACC, Big East. I might be going to one of the games, the Big Eastern MSG. Big 12, obviously. Of course, Caitlin Clark is lining up. She, of course, won today with Iowa. So we might talk about March Madness next show. I think mid part this coming week. And yeah, just make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you guys watched this stuff today and you liked it. Also feel free to follow my Twitter at BenCruz144, and also to follow us on MI6 and IM6 Network on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So without further ado, guys, thank you guys for joining us. I kick it with Kruse alongside Isaiah Leon and James Gonzalez. I am Ben Kruse, And guys, without further ado, I'll go to you guys the outro. The madness this week is going to be absolutely crazy. Can't wait for it. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good night, everyone.
Oh my God! Big goal to go from the two. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it under the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. It's diving to the goal line. It's a touchdown and a title for the Patriots. I can't believe it. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. 45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.